Chapter 3141. The rampage of a godly king realm ghost god is no small matter. Just as Zhang Yi and the rest were considering whether to ask for help, a fourth-floor godly king consecrator said, "Zhu Longxi, from the looks of it, you guys don't seem to be able to suppress this godly king realm ghost god. How about giving me 20 million heaven crystals and I'll take care of it for you?" The black-robed middle-aged man's face sank when he heard this person's words. He was enraged. This guy was clearly trying to take advantage of the situation. Luo Xie's asking price is really high. He actually wants 20 million heaven crystals. Paying 20 million heaven crystals to deal with a godly king expert doesn't seem too high of a price. But this isn't a real godly king. It's just a godly king realm ghost god. If this godly king realm ghost god is killed and he takes out 20 million heaven crystals, Zhu Longxi will suffer a huge loss. This guy never learns his lesson. It's good to let him bleed this time. The people around him were gloating. Seeing the people around him gloating and looking at him like he was a joke, Zhu Longxi's face turned ashen. At this moment, Zhang Yi's face turned pale and he spat out a mouthful of blood. From the looks of it, he seemed to have reached his limit and could no longer suppress the godly king realm ghost god. Seeing this, Zhu Longxi could no longer maintain his calm. He gritted his teeth and said, "Fine, I'll pay 20 million heaven crystals for you to help me capture this godly king realm ghost god." Zhu Longxi agreed to the other party's request. He felt a pang of pain as this was going to bankrupt him. However, what surprised Zhu Longxi was that Luo Xie shook his head when he heard his words. 20 million heaven crystals was the price just now. Now I want 30 million heaven crystals. As for capturing this godly king realm ghost god alive, I'll pay another 20 million heaven crystals. Zhu Longxi, I hope you can make a decision quickly. It won't be this price later. Hearing Luo Xie's words, Zhu Longxi was furious. This guy was too shameless. 50 million heaven crystals, even if he sold himself, he could not gather it either. Seeing Zhu Longxi's hesitation, Ma Wenxing tried to persuade him. He fed Zhang Yi a medicinal pellet and said, "Old man, it's better to kill this divine king demon god. That way you won't have to pay the price. As for nurturing more divine king demons, we can think of a way in the future." After consuming the pellet, Zhang Yi's complexion improved a little, but his aura was still chaotic as he tried his best to trap the deity king realm ghost deities. As for Lu Fengyi and Tang Kaihe, they were anxious at the side, not knowing how to intervene and help. The two of them were of average strength. Against a god king realm specter deity, there was nothing they could do. Seeing how helpless they were, Mo Qingyun couldn't sit still any longer. He hurriedly shouted, "Give me 10 million heaven crystals, and I'll help you deal with this god king realm ghost god. As for whether we can capture it alive, we'll see when the time comes." How could Mo Qingyun not be anxious? The god king realm ghostly immortal's consciousness had been covering him all this time. If it escaped, the first person to be unlucky would be him, who had the lowest cultivation. No matter how heaven-defying his means were, facing a god king realm ghost deity, there was no way to survive. When Mo Qingyun's words came out, it immediately attracted everyone's attention. They all looked over at him. Luo Xie gave Mo Qingyun a cold glance. He released his god king aura and pressed down on Mo Qingyun. He shouted, "A brat who hasn't even grown hair yet dares to meddle in other people's business. Lower this seat's price." In Luo Xie's view, Mo Qingyun's current action was clearly deliberately lowering his price. Under Luo Xi's aura, Mo Qingyun was directly sent flying out, vomiting a mouthful of blood. However, Luo Xie had a sense of propriety and did not injure Mo Qingyun too heavily. He could tell that Mo Qingyun's relationship with Zhang Yi and the rest was pretty good. Heavily injuring Mo Qingyun would be very troublesome. Moreover, for Mo Qingyun to be able to reach the consecrated mountain, he must have some background. If he really did anything to Mo Qingyun, the elders behind him would not let the matter rest. Moreover, Mo Qingyun was a disciple of the 10,000 Demon Emperor Palace, and he was a consecrator of the 10,000 Demon Emperor Palace. If he injured a disciple of the 10,000 Demon Emperor Palace, the 10,000 Demon Emperor Palace would not let him off so easily. Luo Shi, I think you're tired of living. How dare you injure Consecrator Mo? Seeing Luo Shi injuring Mo Qingyun with his aura, the most irascible Lu Fengyi immediately berated him. Lu Fengyi's angry expression changed everyone's expression as they realized that Mo Qingyun was not ordinary. Otherwise, Luo Xie would only injure Mo Qingyun, and he would not be so angry. When others realized this, Luo Xie naturally also noticed it, and he frowned slightly. However, he was a divine king after all, and he had his own dignity and pride. He snorted lightly and said, "Humph! A heavenly soldier realm junior dares to challenge a divine king. It's only right that he almost suffered. Even if his elders are here, they can't blame me." Hearing Luo Xie's words, the surrounding people nodded their heads in agreement. With Luo Xie's status and strength, teaching Mo Qingyun a lesson was indeed not to be blamed. Coming to Mo Qingyun's side, Ma Wenxing took out an elixir and placed it in Mo Qingyun's mouth. "Consecrator Mo, how do you feel? Do you feel any discomfort?" After shaking his head at Ma Wenxing, Mo Qingyun looked at Zhu Longxi and asked, "Consecrated Zhu, hurry up and give me an answer. Consecrated Zhang, you can't hold on much longer. If you're unwilling, I'll have to leave immediately. Your ghost god spiritual consciousness has locked onto me. I don't want to die here. If I die at the hands of your ghost god spiritual consciousness because of your delay, you will have to accompany me in death." Mo Qingyun said this because he was in a dangerous situation and he wanted to force Zhu Longxi to make a decision quickly. Zhang Yi's performance showed that he couldn't hold on any longer. Therefore, he wanted to escape to Chu Jiangxiao's residence before Zhang Yi couldn't hold on any longer. Hearing Mo Qingyun's words, Zhu Longxi hesitated for a moment and said, "Don't let the goodies go to outsiders. It's better to give the sky crystal to you than to give it to others." Hearing Zhu Longxi's words, Lu Fengyi and the others all nodded in agreement. "Humph." Seeing Zhu Longxi's decision, Luo Xie snorted coldly and said, "I want to see how a heavenly soldier realm junior can resolve this situation." Hearing Luo Xie's words, Mo Qingyun arrogantly stared at him and said, "If that's the case, open your eyes wide and see how I resolve this situation." Mo Qingyun ignored Luo Xie and shouted at Zhu Longxi, "Consecrator Zhu, you have more than one ghost god, right? Summon all the other ghost gods and have them suppress the Divine King Realm Ghost God. As long as the Divine King Realm Ghost God is dealt with, the other ghost gods will be destroyed. You won't lose anything." Hearing Mo Qingyun's words, Zhu Longxi was shocked. "You mean to say that you want me to summon other ghost gods to deal with the Divine King Realm Ghost God for 10 million sky crystal?" Zhu Longxi was dumbfounded. What kind of situation was this? Your idea might not work, but you want to charge me so many sky crystal? Are you trying to gain something without risking anything? End of chapter. Chapter 3142. Not only was Zhu Longxi dumbfounded, but Zhang Yi and the others were also dumbfounded. Why did Mo Qingyun's words sound so unreliable? They didn't feel safe at all. Zhu Longxi was stunned for a moment. He looked at Mo Qingyun with a shocked expression and asked, "You want me to summon other ghosts to deal with the Divine King ghosts?" He really couldn't believe that Mo Qingyun's idea was actually like this. "Of course it's your ghosts. Do you want me, a heavenly soldier, to fight a Divine King ghosts?" Hearing Zhu Longxi's question, Mo Qingyun was speechless. He retorted and urged, "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and summon other ghosts. Revered Elder Zhang, you can't hold on much longer." Zhu Longxi frowned. He didn't respond to Mo Qingyun, nor did he have any intention of summoning ghosts. Seeing Zhu Longxi's reaction, Mo Qingyun also frowned. "Revered Elder Zhu, Do you really think I would joke around with my life for a mere 10 million heaven crystals? I might as well tell you that I just went to the ancient Fey cave and obtained more than 10 million heaven crystals. The reason I'm helping you is because of revered Elder Zhang Yi and the others. Since you're unwilling, you have to think of a way yourself. As Mo Qingyun spoke, a two-winged sacred power Pegasus condensed under him. Seeing that Mo Qingyun was about to leave, Zhang Yi also showed an anxious expression. He shouted at Zhu Longxi, "Old man, don't hesitate anymore. Hurry up and do as revered Elder Mo says. I can't hold on much longer." He could tell that Mo Qingyun wasn't lying. He wasn't doing this for 10 million heaven crystals. Alright. Hearing Zhang Yi's words, Zhu Longxi gritted his teeth and made a difficult decision. Although he didn't know Mo Qingyun, he could tell that Zhang Yi and the others valued Mo Qingyun very much. From this, it could be seen that Mo Qingyun's identity was extraordinary. He didn't seem like someone who was after his 10 million heaven crystals. Moreover, Mo Qingyun was indeed risking his life by staying behind to help him suppress the specters. Without hesitation, Zhu Longxi summoned the other ghosts and deities. Just as Mo Qingyun thought, Zhu Longxi still had a lot of ghosts and immortals, and they weren't weak at all. Among them, there were close to a dozen quasi-god kings and even more celestial gods, reaching more than 30. Consecrator Zhu, don't control the ghost gods. Go and suppress the divine king ghost gods. Mo Qingyun reminded Zhu Longxi when he saw him summon the demon god. Then, he turned to Tang Kaihe and said, "Honorable Tang, it's your turn. As a master tactician, you should be better at commanding a battle. You will control these ghosts and deities to deal with the divine king realm ghosts and deities. Don't let the divine king realm ghosts and deities clash head-on, just keep them occupied." Hearing Mo Qingyun's order, Tang Kaihe was dumbfounded. He didn't regain his senses for a long time before he said, "Consecrated Elder Mo, you want me to control the ghost gods to intercept the divine king ghost gods?" Although he was very familiar with Zhu Longxi and knew a little about controlling ghosts and deities, his control was definitely not as good as Zhu Longxi's. Mo Qingyun's current arrangement made him feel like it was child's play. "That's right." Mo Qingyun nodded seriously at Tang Kaihe's question. He said, "This divine king ghost god's hatred has always been on me. If I'm not afraid, what are you afraid of? As a master tactician, if you don't have the ability to adapt, how can you be considered a master tactician?" Tang Kaihe was speechless at Mo Qingyun's words. He didn't know how to refute. Mo Qingyun's words were very logical. Although he didn't want to admit it, he had to admit that the divine king ghost god's attention had always been on Mo Qingyun. As for the 5 of them, they were all divine kings. It would be embarrassing if word got out. Alright. Tang Kaihe no longer hesitated. He took the ghost controlling ring from Zhu Longxi and controlled the celestial god ghost god to fight. Tang Kaihe didn't know if it was because he was nervous or he wasn't familiar with controlling the ghost god, but his control over the celestial god ghost god was very shaky. There were a few times when he made huge mistakes while controlling the celestial god ghost god. However, as a master tactician, he was very familiar with the art of war. Every time he made a mistake, he was able to skillfully stabilize the situation. Seeing this, Zhu Longxi was delighted. A light flashed in his eyes as he said, "Consecrator Mo has good eyesight. Consecrator Tang controls ghosts to fight. Although his attack power isn't strong, his defense is more ingenious. From the looks of it, as long as Reverend Tang holds on, the situation will be stabilized." Zhu Longxi looked at Mo Qingyun in a different light. He was impressed by Mo Qingyun's arrangement. He was far inferior to Mo Qingyun when it came to knowing how to make good use of people. As Tang Kaihe controlled the ghost god to hold back the divine king ghost god, the pressure on Zhang Yi was greatly reduced. Zhang Yi took a deep breath and a faint smile appeared on his face. He said, Reverend Mo is indeed extraordinary to be able to stabilize the situation so quickly. He is indeed outstanding to be valued by Palace Master Chu. Mo Qingyun's expression relaxed when he saw the Divine King Ghost God being held back. He turned to Zhang Yi and said, Reverend Zhang Yi, Reverend Tang Kaihe's control over the Celestial God Ghost God may be able to hold back the Divine King Ghost God, but it won't be easy to subdue it. Moreover, Reverend Tang Kaihe's control over the Celestial God Ghost God may not be able to hold back the Divine King Ghost God for long. You have to pay attention to the situation at all times. If the Divine King Ghost God breaks out of the battle, you must not let it escape. You must trap it. This concerns my life and death. My life is in your hands. Zhang Yi and the others were confused when they heard Mo Qingyun's words. Based on Mo Qingyun's words, it seemed as though he was very afraid of death. Before Zhang Yi and the others could question him, they were stunned. They saw Mo Qingyun riding on the sacred energy Pegasus, and his figure flashed as he flew towards the Divine King Ghost God. Everyone was shocked when they saw Mo Qingyun's actions. What is he trying to do? Don't tell me this kid is thinking of attacking the God King Realm specters? A heavenly soldier attacking a Divine King Ghost God? That's crazy. This kid is really bold. He's the boldest person I've ever seen. He's not bold enough to compete with a Divine King. More importantly, he accepted Zhu Longxi's deal. He's trying to gain something without risking anything. Everyone was shocked when they saw Mo Qingyun's actions. They all stared at him. Under everyone's shocked gaze, Mo Qingyun raised his hand and a long sword appeared in his hand. Ignore defense. Mo Qingyun slashed out with the Divine Nine Bull sword as soon as it appeared in his hand. A sharp sword ray blasted out. The sword ray pierced through the 8 trigrams plate's light barrier and landed on the Divine King Ghost God. Seeing this scene, the surrounding people were shocked and felt their heads buzzing. Mo Qingyun really attacked. End of chapter. Chapter 3143. Revered Elder Mo, what courage! Seeing Mo Qingyun's actions, even with Tang Kaihe's temperament, he could not resist praising too. As a master tactician, he had seen before powerhouses who dared to charge and break through enemy lines. But someone like Mo Qingyun, who was merely heavenly soldier realm cultivation and dared to clash head-on with a divine king, he had never seen before. Forget about seeing before, he had not even heard of it before. No wonder revered Elder Mo said earlier that I must trap the divine king realm ghost immortal. Turns out that this was his intention. Seeing Mo Qingyun's actions, Zhang Yi revealed a look of understanding and felt somewhat ashamed in his heart. Just now, he thought wrongly, actually thinking that Mo Qingyun was cowardly and afraid of death. I misunderstood him too. Seeing Mo Qingyun's actions, Zhu Longxi could not resist sighing and said, originally, I thought that he just came up with an idea and wanted to take away 10 million heaven crystals from me. To think that he actually rushed up to chop down the divine king realm ghost immortal. This courage is worth 10 million heaven crystals. While the two people were shocked in their hearts, Lu Fengyi's brows furrowed and he said, that sword in his hand is rather interesting. Seems to be the sword spirit race's divine ox guarding it. As an artificing master, Lu Fengyi's knowledge of all kinds of weapons was far from what ordinary people could compare to. Recognizing the Nine Ox divine sword now was also not something strange. Recognizing the origin of the sword in Mo Qingyun's hand, Lu Fengyi revealed a curious expression and said, looking at it this way, his relationship with the sword spirit race should be very close. Although revered Elder Mo is young, his background is powerful and his connections are vast. He's not simple. While Lu Fengyi and the rest were alarmed, Mo Qingyun continuously brandished his sword, slashing at the divine king realm ghost immortal. Although Mo Qingyun's strength was weak, he attacked the divine king realm ghost immortal time and time again, also making the divine king realm ghost immortal endlessly enraged. Immediately, all of the Divine King Realm Ghost Immortal's attention landed on Mo Qingyun. Even the celestial deity Realm Ghost Immortal attacking it could barely be bothered, only thinking about going out to kill Mo Qingyun. As far as it was concerned, an ant that kept provoking it was something it could not tolerate. As the God King Ghosts and Immortals focused their attention on Mo Qingyun, the pressure on Tang Kaihe was greatly reduced. The situation is under control. The pressure on Tang Kaihe was greatly reduced, a faint smile appeared on his face. Next, as long as Consecrator Mo can hold on and attract the deity King Ghost God's attention, we will exhaust it bit by bit. When it runs out of energy, it might not be impossible to capture it alive. Hearing Tang Kaihe's words, Zhu Longshi's face lit up. His eyes were filled with anticipation. If he could really do it, it would undoubtedly be the best outcome. The door of death. Dark swallowing heaven gate. While Tang Kaihe and the others were talking, Mo Qingyun split his attention and cast another 2 divine arts. Soon, 2 doors of black light with shocking auras flew towards the God King realm Spectre God. Seeing the 2 black light doors appear, the surrounding onlookers were immediately shocked to the point that their expressions changed drastically. That's the divine ability of the Dark Heavenly Holy Gate. He's from the Dark Heavenly Holy Gate. I didn't expect this lad's background to be so terrifying. Luo Xie is in big trouble now. He actually injured a junior from the Dark Heavenly Holy Gate. If this lad is an Emperor or Honored Branch Junior, Luo Xie might have to pay a price. Seeing Mo Qingyun's performance, the onlookers looked at Luo Xie with sympathy. The 9 great heavenly holy gates were the overlords of the overlords in the heaven domain. The 10,000 demon Emperor Palace could not be compared to them. A junior from the Dark Heavenly Holy Gate. Looking at the 2 black light doors, Luo Xie's expression tensed up. In his opinion, Mo Qingyun might have come to the Consecrator Mountain of the 10,000 Demon Emperor Palace to accompany his elders. If Mo Qingyun's elders knew that he had injured Mo Qingyun, there would be a lot of trouble. Thinking of this, Luo Xie regretted it. He had been too impulsive previously. With Mo Qingyun's heavenly soldier realm cultivation, how could he not have something to rely on if he dared to challenge a divine king realm? Moreover, this reliance was not ordinary. At the very least, it had to be someone stronger than him. The imprisonment of the door of death can suppress a divine king realm ghost god for 2 breath. Seeing that the door of death had been destroyed once again, Mo Qingyun calculated in his heart. He thought to himself, although it's only 2 breaths, it's enough to resolve a crisis and give Tang Kaihe and Zhang Yi a breather. It'll also give me a chance to survive. Mo Qingyun thought in his heart. He no longer used the door of death recklessly. He was prepared to use it when he was in danger. As for the dark devouring gate, it had been madly devouring the divine king realm ghost god's power, weakening its combat strength bit by bit. Not only that, with the replenishment of the dark devouring gate's power, Mo Qingyun's saint energy was almost inexhaustible. In other words, the faster Mo Qingyun's saint energy was depleted, the faster the divine king realm ghost god's power would be depleted. At this moment, the cooperation of Mo Qingyun and the others formed a perfect cycle. If this continues, the divine king realm ghost god will really be suppressed. It's hard to imagine that a heavenly soldier realm cultivator can turn the situation around. If this lad succeeds, his future will be limitless. After today's battle, his name will probably spread throughout the 10,000 Demon Emperor Palace. Seeing Mo Qingyun's performance, the crowd sighed. Mo Qingyun did not care about the thoughts of the people around him. He was fully focused on attracting the Divine King Realm Ghost God's hatred. As long as the Divine King Realm Ghost God's hatred was on him, the current situation would not collapse. As long as he could maintain this situation, it would not be long before he could subdue the Divine King Realm Ghost God. Time passed bit by bit as Mo Qingyun and the others battled. As time went by, the power of the godly King Realm Ghost deity also weakened rapidly. As the divine King Realm Ghost god's attack was weakened, the pressure on Emo Qingyun and the others was greatly reduced. After about 4 hours, the divine King Realm Ghost god was finally subdued. That's right, the divine King Realm Ghost god was subdued, not killed. Success, we really succeeded. Seeing that the divine King Realm Ghost god was subdued, Zhu Longxi's face was filled with excitement. He threw a storage ring to Emo Qingyun and said, "Consecrated Elder Emo, I will remember this favor. I still have matters to attend to, so I won't speak with you anymore." He did not expect that Emo Qingyun would not only successfully resolve the crisis, but also capture the divine King Realm Ghost god. This outcome was undoubtedly 1,000 times better than what he had expected. Once he subdued the divine King Realm Ghost god, his battle strength would multiply and his status would rise. As soon as Zhu Longxi finished speaking, his figure flashed and he returned to his courtyard. After receiving the storage ring from Zhu Longxi, Emo Qingyun turned to look at Luo Xie and said, "Consecrated Luo Xie, did you see how I subdued the divine King Realm Ghost god?" Hearing Emo Qingyun's words, the surrounding people stopped in their tracks and looked at Luo Xie. In their eyes, Emo Qingyun's actions were clearly provoking Luo Xie. End of chapter. Chapter 3144. Hearing Emo Qingyun's question, Luo Xie's face turned ugly and his eyes flashed coldly. He was very clear that his old face had been slapped swollen by Emo Qingyun. But out of fear of Emo Qingyun's background, Luo Xie didn't dare to attack again. He looked coldly at Emo Qingyun and said, "Little friend, this old man has misjudged you this time. I'm ashamed of my inferiority." Luo Xie left these words and turned to leave. Emo Qingyun didn't care about Luo Xie's behavior and only smiled meaningfully. He wouldn't let go of Luo Xie's debt today. One day, he would get it back. Although Luo Xie was also a divine king, he was different from Manju. He was just a lone divine king. Emo Qingyun didn't have to worry too much if he wanted to take revenge on him. Unlike Manju, who was an elder of the demon race, if Emo Qingyun wanted to take revenge on him, it would cause a lot of trouble. For an elder Emo, your performance just now really opened this old man's eyes. Recalling Emo Qingyun's wonderful performance, Ma Wenxing smiled faintly and came in front of Emo Qingyun. He said, "This is a clear jade spirit pill. Take it and it will quickly heal your injuries as well as the saint force you just used." As Ma Wenxing spoke, he handed a green pill to Emo Qingyun. "Thank you, foreign elder Ma." Emo Qingyun didn't refuse the pill that Ma Wenxing handed over. He accepted it without hesitation. Just as Ma Wenxing finished speaking, Lu Fengyi walked over and said, "Consecrator Mo, that divine weapon in your hand seems to be the Sword Spirit Clan's divine Ox Guardian sword. Could you lend it to this old man to take a look?" Seeing that Lu Fengyi recognized his weapon, Emo Qingyun's face showed a hint of surprise. But thinking of Lu Fengyi's identity, Emo Qingyun felt relieved. With the other party's attainments in refining, it wasn't strange for him to recognize it. "All right." Emo Qingyun nodded, took out the 9-bull divine sword, and handed it over to Lu Fengyi. At this time, Zhang Yi and Tang Kaihe walked over and smiled meaningfully at Emo Qingyun. "Consecrated Elder Emo, we put in a lot of effort to deal with the God King Realm Ghost deity. You've received 10 million heaven crystals from that old pervert, shouldn't you split some with us?" Hearing the words of the two people, Lu Fengyi and the other person's expressions froze. Within the gazes that they looked at them with, there was immediately some disdain. Zhang Yi and Tang Kaihe didn't mind at all. Emo Qingyun had gotten such a big benefit, so they had to reward the two of them a little. Emo Qingyun was also surprised by the two's actions. He was shocked at how thick-skinned they were. Emo Qingyun looked at the two people and feigned a surprised appearance as he said, "The two of you are sure you want heaven crystals from me? Instead of me asking for it from you too?" When Emo Qingyun's words came out, Zhang Yi and Tang Kaihe were dumbfounded. What kind of situation was this? When exchanging blows with the God King Realm Ghost Deity earlier, they were Emo Qingyun's coolie. Shouldn't they give some benefits? Why did it become them owing Emo Qingyun in a blink of an eye? Not just Zhang Yi, two people were surprised and puzzled. Lu Fengyi and the other person by the side were even more dumbfounded in their hearts. This plot twist was too fast. Under the four people's shocked gazes, Emo Qingyun looked at Zhang Yi first and said, "Let me ask you, if I didn't come forward in time and take the initiative to come up with a plan to subdue the God King Realm Ghost Deity and left Consecration Mountain, who would the God King Realm Ghost Deity look for to take revenge? Me?" Hearing Emo Qingyun's question, Zhang Yi answered blankly. He had been controlling the 8 trigrams plate to trap the God King Realm Ghost Deity all along. The God King Realm Ghost Deity definitely wanted to kill him to vent its anger. Hearing Zhang Yi's answer, Emo Qingyun smiled faintly and said, "In your condition at that time, could you have stopped the God King Realm Ghost Deity? Could you have survived his attack?" No. Zhang Yi didn't even think about Emo Qingyun's question. He shook his head and answered. However, as soon as Zhang Yi said that, he seemed to have understood something and said, "But according to the situation at that time, if I couldn't trap the God King Realm Ghost Deity, that old rascal would have used the Heaven Crystal to ask other consecrators for help." "Who?" Emo Qingyun asked directly. Zhang Yi opened his mouth but couldn't say a person for a long time. Seeing Zhang Yi's silence, Emo Qingyun smiled faintly and said, "With Consecrator Ju's personality, how long do you think it would take for him to reach an agreement? If the Divine King Realm Ghost God had broken out of the prison, how long could you have lasted in the hands of the Divine King Realm Ghost God?" Zhang Yi's face paled, feeling a lingering fear. According to what Emo Qingyun said, he probably would have been killed by the God King Realm Ghost Deity before Zhu Longxi could reach an agreement. Seeing Zhang Yi's reaction, the smile on Emo Qingyun's face widened and he said, "In that case, it can be said that I saved your life. The life of a peak celestial god Realm King Realm Formation Master is worth at least 20 million heaven crystal. In other words, I saved your life, so you owe me 20 million heaven crystal. For your help earlier, I'll give you 2 million heaven crystal as compensation. After deducting that, you still owe me 18 million heaven crystal." Zhang Yi was stunned, his mouth wide open, shocked by Emo Qingyun's words. What was going on? He went to Emo Qingyun to ask for benefits, but not only did he not get any benefits, he even owed Emo Qingyun 18 million heaven crystal. He had suffered a huge loss. Seeing Zhang Yi's situation, Tang Kaihe's expression twitched, starting to feel somewhat weak in his heart. Just as Tang Kaihe was feeling weak in his heart, Emo Qingyun turned to look at him and said, "Retainer Tang, although you're a master tactician, you probably haven't experienced such a great battle before, right? Haven't exchanged blows with divine kings before, right?" Hearing Emo Qingyun's question, Tang Kaihe felt a pang of guilt and shook his head, saying, "Never." Seeing Tang Kaihe say so, Emo Qingyun's smile became even wider, laughing until Tang Kaihe got goosebumps. Emo Qingyun smiled and said, "How much do you think it would cost to hire 10 peak celestial deities, several dozen celestial deity realm powerhouses, as well as a divine king realm powerhouse to let you carry out a combat drill? Let me calculate for you. Divine King Realm, spending 2 million heaven crystal isn't excessive, right? Peak Celestial Deity Realm, spending 500,000 heaven crystal isn't much, right? Celestial Deity Realm, spending 100,000 heaven crystal isn't much, right? Calculating like this, it's close to over 10 million heaven crystal. I'll also count it as your 2 million heaven crystal as a fee for your hard work. After deducting it, you still owe me over 8 million heaven crystal. Rounding it to 0, you owe me 8 million heaven crystal." Tang Kaihe was dumbfounded. Could it still be converted like this? More importantly, it had always been him scamming others. When was it his turn to be scammed? Seeing such a scene, The Lu Fengyi and Ma Wenxing, two people by the side, could not resist laughing loudly. It was still their first time seeing Tang Kaihe suffer such a huge loss at the hands of one person. Seeing Tang Kaihe, two people, suffer a setback, the two of them had an inexplicable sense of pleasure in their hearts. At the same time, their admiration for Mo Qingyun reached an extreme. Mo Qingyun actually made Tang Kaihe suffer a loss. This kind of ability was truly not simple. Chapter 3145. Haha, Tang Kaihe, you also have a day like this? I even reminded Consecrator Mo previously to let him guard against you a little. Looks like I worried too much. The two of you are people with status. Make sure not to renege on the debt. Lu Fengyi, two people, gloated over their misfortune, laughing until they were convulsing back and forth. Asked the two of you to act, now you're comfortable, right? Hearing Lu Fengyi, two people's words, Tang Kaihe, two people, exchanged glances, actually not knowing what to say. Could their current outcome be considered lifting a rock to smash their own feet? Looking at the two people with gloomy faces, a faint smile surfaced at the corners of Mo Qingyun's mouth and he said, "Seniors, just now, I was just joking. How can I really take your heaven crystals?" The moment they heard Mo Qingyun's words, Tang Kaihe, two people's expressions eased up, letting out a deep breath. Really making them take out 10 million heaven crystals, even with their wealth, that would hurt their muscles and bones too. Many thanks, Consecrator Mo, the matter this time, counted as me owing you a favor. When Mo Qingyun said that he did not want the heaven crystals, Tang Kaihe, two people, also took out a bit of expression. The two of their favors were also very valuable. But when they made the promise, the two people did not feel good in their hearts, having a strong sense of sullenness. What kind of thing was this? They clearly came to collect a debt. In the end, disregarding that they did not receive the debt, they even owed Mo Qingyun a favor. This transaction was considered to be a huge loss. If I encounter trouble in the future, I'll definitely ask two seniors for help. Regarding Tang Kaihe, two people's promise, Mo Qingyun was not pretentious either, accepting it straightforwardly. Conversing a few words with Mo Qingyun, Zhang Yi was not willing to stay anymore and said, "Just now, exchanging blows with divine king realm ghosts and deities, I suffered considerable injuries. I have to immediately return to cultivate and heal. Excuse me first." Zhang Yi's words finished, he turned around and left, returning to his courtyard. After sending off Zhang Yi with his eyes, Mo Qingyun took out the 9-bull divine sword, turned his head to look at Lu Fengyi, and said, "Senior Lu, can you help me refine and upgrade this sword?" Hearing Mo Qingyun's request, LV Fengyi frowned and said, "Consecrator Mo, this sword is forged using the Sword Spirit Clan's 12 Divine Swords Forging Manual. I don't know much about the 12 Divine Swords Forging Manual, so I don't think I can help you." LV Fengyi's answer caused Mo Qingyun to reveal a disappointed expression, and he put away the 9-oxen divine sword. Originally, he thought that with the help of a master like Lu Fengyi, he could save a lot of trouble. Now, it seemed that his plan had failed, and he had to do it himself. At this moment, while Mo Qingyun and the others were talking, a beautiful figure arrived at the consecration mountain. Yun Luo. Seeing the beautiful figure approaching, Mo Qingyun revealed a surprised expression. He did not expect her to find this place. When Yun Luo saw Mo Qingyun in front of her, she immediately revealed a joyful smile. She quickly walked over and said, "Young palace master, have you really become a consecrator?" "Yes." Mo Qingyun nodded. After receiving a positive answer from Mo Qingyun, Yun Luo's beautiful eyes widened as she said, "When I returned to the sect just now, I heard that you were demoted to a consecrator. I thought it was nonsense, but I didn't expect it to be true. Why is it like this? I heard that you made great contributions to the sect in the ancient Fey Cavern. Why did the sect master demote you to a consecrator?" Hearing Yun Luo's words, Lu Fengyi and the others shook their heads, secretly lamenting that Yun Luo was too young. In Yun Luo's eyes, Emo Qingyun's demotion from a young palace master to a consecrator was a great punishment. However, in their eyes, Emo Qingyun's demotion from a young palace master to a consecrator was a form of nurturing in disguise. Don't mind it. I'm not a young palace master. I just took the palace master's token. In response to Yun Luo's sadness and dissatisfaction, Emo Qingyun smiled faintly and shook his head. With a very indifferent look, he said, "Although I have returned the token, I have been promoted to a consecrator. This is a great reward." Hearing Emo Qingyun say this, Yun Luo's beautiful eyes blinked and her expression became better. According to Emo Qingyun's words, returning the palace master's token in exchange for a consecrator seemed to be a great gain. Previously, holding the palace master's token seemed to have a more honorable status, but there were no practical benefits. However, now that she was a consecrator, the situation was completely different. She would receive a considerable salary every month. Young Palace Master, have you found the heavenly general concept origin? After exchanging a few words with Emo Qingyun, Yun Luo's beautiful face became nervous. She asked about Emo Qingyun's progress. Hearing Yun Luo's question, Emo Qingyun nodded and said, "I've found it. Once the rewards for the ancient Fey Cavern are given out, we will rush back together." Okay. Yun Luo nodded. Seeing Emo Qingyun and Yun Luo talking and completely forgetting about them, Lu Fengyi coughed lightly and said, "Little girl, you are from the Sword Spirit clan, right? Could it be that the divine Ox Guardian sword in Consecrator Mo's hand was given to him by you?" With Lu Fengyi's eyesight, he could still see Yun Luo's origins and identity. Hearing Lu Fengyi's question, Yun Luo's beautiful face flushed red. She hurriedly shook her head and said, "No. No, the divine Ox Guardian sword in young Palace Master's hand was obtained by chance." When Yun Luo said this, her heartbeat clearly sped up. In their clan, there was a great hidden meaning in gifting their own sword to others. "It's actually like this." Yun Luo's answer made Lu Fengyi somewhat surprised, becoming even more curious about Emo Qingyun. At this moment, when Lu Fengyi still wanted to ask again, Chu Renyun arrived once more. Seeing Chu Renyun arrive, Emo Qingyun's expression was delighted, guessing Chu Renyun's intentions for coming. "Consecrator Emo, this is the ancient Fey Cavern's reward. I brought it over for you." Arriving in front of Emo Qingyun, Chu Renyun took out a storage ring and handed it to Emo Qingyun's hand, saying, "In addition, the 5 million heaven crystals that you obtained from Divine King Barbaric Cage's hands previously, I also put it inside." Hearing Chu Renyun's words, Lu Fengyi few people at the back were stunned, each and every one revealing shocked expressions. Hearing Chu Renyun's words, Emo Qingyun seemed to know Divine King powerhouses and seemed to have a pretty good relationship. Otherwise, how could Emo Qingyun obtain 5 million heaven crystals from Divine King Barbaric Cage's hands? Immediately, Tang Kaihe walked forward and asked Chu Renyun, "Elder Chu Renyun, Consecrator Mo knows Divine King Barbaric Cage? Or helped Divine King Barbaric Cage with something?" In Tang Kaihe's view, either Emo Qingyun's relationship with Barbaric Cage was extremely good, or he helped Barbaric Cage before. Just like Zhu Longxi previously, Emo Qingyun helped him with a favor and received 10 million heaven crystals as a reward. No. Chu Renyun shook his head and said with puzzlement, "Consecrator Tang, why do you ask?" Regarding Chu Renyun's answer, Tang Kaihe few people were even more puzzled. Seeing Tang Kaihe few people's performance, Emo Qingyun guessed their thoughts and said, "The matter is very simple. Divine King Barbaric Cage made a bet with me and lost to me 5 million heaven crystals." Hearing Emo Qingyun's answer, Tang Kaihe few people were all dumbfounded. A heavenly soldier realm cultivation made a bet with a Divine King realm powerhouse and even won 5 million heaven crystals. This was also too exciting, right? End of this chapter. Chapter 3146. Elder Chu Renyun, I'm preparing to refine the celestial deity armor. Can you help me? Seeing that the ancient Fey Cavern's reward was in his hands, Mo Qingyun was not willing to delay and prepared to refine the celestial deity armor immediately. After he refined the celestial deity armor, his defensive power would increase greatly. When facing the Dragonclaw fierce sun leopard again, he would also have more confidence. But if he refined it himself, the time required was too long. He might not be able to completely refine it in a year and a half. If Chu Renyun made a move to help, the time would be greatly shortened. Hearing Mo Qingyun's words, Lu Fengyi's expression changed slightly and said, "Revered Elder Mo, the celestial deity armor that you all speak of, could it be the 100 battle heaven-splitting armor?" Mo Qingyun revealed a puzzled look and turned his head to look at Chu Renyun. He only knew that the reward for the ancient Fey Cavern's first place was a celestial deity-level armor. As for what armor it was, he was not too clear. Seeing Mo Qingyun's puzzled look, Lu Fengyi continued, "Some time ago, an elder took away some weapons and armor from me, saying that it was a reward for the juniors who participated in the ancient Fey Cavern. If my guess is right, the celestial deity armor in your hands should be the 100 battle heaven-splitting armor." Hearing Lu Fengyi say so, Mo Qingyun understood. Immediately, Mo Qingyun took out the celestial deity armor and handed it in front of Lu Fengyi, saying, "Senior Lu, could it be that there's something wrong with this 100 battle heaven-splitting armor?" Mo Qingyun could tell that Lu Fengyi must have discovered something by suddenly asking. Receiving the armor from Mo Qingyun's hands, Lu Fengyi nodded his head solemnly and said, "The 100 battle heaven-splitting armor was refined by me 10 years ago. It's only suitable for celestial deity realm powerhouses to use. With your heavenly soldier realm cultivation, not to mention that you can't refine it. Even if you successfully refine it with your current cultivation, you're also unable to mobilize it to withstand damage." Hearing Lu Fengyi say so, Mo Qingyun felt a sense of rejoice. Fortunately, he met Lu Fengyi. Otherwise, if he obtained the 100 battle heaven-splitting armor, wouldn't it be equivalent to becoming a decoration? More importantly, if he were to refine the 100 battle heaven-rending armor and use it to defend against the Dragonclaw fierce sun leopard's attack, and suddenly discover that he was unable to activate it, the consequences would be unimaginable. Seeing Mo Qingyun's tense expression, LV Fengyi smiled faintly at him and said, "Consecrator Mo, you don't have to worry too much. Give me the 100 battle heaven-splitting armor. I will remodel it and you will be able to activate it to resist the damage." Hearing Lu Fengyi's words, Mo Qingyun's expression became happy, and he hurriedly said, "Senior Lu, then I'll have to trouble you to help me modify it. As for what you need, feel free to tell me. I will prepare everything as soon as possible." Hearing Mo Qingyun's request, Lu Fengyi readily nodded and said, "I'll go back and think about how to modify it. As for the required materials, I'll give you a list later." Hearing Lu Fengyi's words, Mo Qingyun hurriedly nodded, revealing an expectant expression. At the same time, Mo Qingyun was also thinking in his heart, "It seems like Big Brother Chu conferring me as a consecrator is a good thing for me. It has allowed me to have an unexpected harvest." If he had not become a consecrator and fought side by side with Lu Fengyi and the others, building a certain relationship, he would not have been able to do so. If Mo Qingyun discovered that he was unable to use the 100 battle heaven-splitting armor and came to ask Lu Fengyi for help, the other party would not be so straightforward. After agreeing with Mo Qingyun, Lu Fengyi walked towards his courtyard. Asking Lu Fengyi to help modify the armor would not allow him to return to the star domain boundary in a short period of time. Mo Qingyun said to Yun Luo, who was beside him, "Modifying the 100 battle heaven-splitting armor will take some time. I'm afraid I won't be able to leave in a short period of time. Do you want to return to your residence and wait for my news, or do you want to wait here?" Mo Qingyun's courtyard was very big, and there were many rooms inside. Yun Luo's residence was not a problem. "I'll stay here." Hearing Mo Qingyun's question, Yun Luo answered without hesitation. Emo Qingyun did not object to Yun Luo's decision, and casually nodded in agreement. After discussing with Yun Luo, Emo Qingyun did not want to stay any longer and said, "Previously, I suffered heavy injuries under Luo Xie's aura. When I was fighting against the Divine King Realm Ghost God, I did not have time to cultivate and recover. Since there's nothing else now, I want to return to cultivate and recover. I won't accompany you guys." Hearing Emo Qingyun's words, Chu Renyun's expression shook and he asked, "Consecrator Mo, Consecrator Luo Xie injured you? Also, how did you deal with a God King Realm Ghost deity?" Hearing Chu Renyun's question, Emo Qingyun did not hide anything and began to tell him what happened. Hearing Emo Qingyun's story, Chu Renyun's expression suddenly changed, and he looked at Zhu Longxi's courtyard. If one looked carefully, one could see that there was some dissatisfaction in Chu Renyun's eyes. If the Divine King Realm Ghost God escaped, it would cause a lot of trouble for the 10,000 Demon Emperor Palace. This kind of thing must be stopped. It was Zhu Longxi's good luck that it did not cause trouble this time, but what would happen next time? When Emo Qingyun mentioned Luo Xie's matter, Chu Renyun's expression became uglier, and he said, "This Divine King Luo Xie is quite powerful. He dares to bully others. As a consecrator of the 10,000 Demon Emperor Palace, he dares to injure our people. Looks like he needs to be taught a lesson." When Chu Renyun said this, the aura he emitted was obviously colder. Sensing Chu Renyun's aura, Tang Kaihe and Yun Luo were shocked, and they felt a lingering fear. They did not expect Chu Renyun to have such a reaction after hearing about Emo Qingyun's matter. In the end, when Chu Renyun heard about Tang Kaihe's matter, his aura slowly withdrew. Immediately, he looked at Tang Kaihe with a shocked expression and said, "You want to settle the score with Consecrator Emo?" "Yes." Tang Kaihe smiled bitterly and nodded. Seeing Tang Kaihe's performance, Chu Renyun nodded in admiration and said, "Consecrator Tang Kaihe, you are really capable." Hearing Chu Renyun's words, Tang Kaihe's expression became even more gloomy. If he knew it would be like this, he would not have done it even if he was beaten to death. When did he know that Emo Qingyun's face was so powerful? He was dumbfounded. While Tang Kaihe was gloomy, he suddenly thought of Chu Renyun's words. Emo Qingyun's special methods, let them slowly experience it themselves. Thinking of this, Tang Kaihe looked at Chu Renyun with a shocked expression and said, "Elder Chu Renyun, Consecrator Mo's special ability is conning one of them?" Chu Renyun nodded, looking at Tang Kaihe's expression. He looked like a child who could be taught. Hearing such an answer from Chu Renyun, Tang Kaihe was instantly dumbfounded. This is also possible? Conning can become a consecrator? Consecrator Emo, I have to report to the palace master, so I will take my leave first. Ignoring Tang Kaihe's gloominess, Chu Renyun knew the whole story, so he did not want to stay. Seeing Chu Renyun leave, Emo Qingyun did not stay and walked to his courtyard with Yun Luo. Tang Kaihe and Yun Luo looked at each other, smiled bitterly and shrugged, and also walked to their courtyard. End of this chapter. Chapter 3147. In Chu Jiangxiao's courtyard. Chu Renyun came to Chu Jiangxiao's courtyard the moment he left the consecration mountain. Elder Chu Renyun, is little friend Mo adapting well on the consecration mountain? Seeing Chu Renyun arrive, Chu Jiangxiao revealed a faint smile and asked about Emo Qingyun's situation. Hearing Chu Jiangxiao's question, Chu Renyun didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Chu Jiangxiao actually asked if Emo Qingyun was adapting well on the consecration mountain? Was this a problem that needed to be considered? Based on Emo Qingyun's previous performance, was it because he wasn't adapting well? Wasn't it because others weren't adapting well? Palace Lord, I'm here to report this matter to you. Chu Renyun calmed himself down and explained his purpose in coming. I just delivered the reward for the ancient demon cavern to Consecrator Mo and asked him about his situation on the consecration mountain. Chu Jiangxiao's expression changed slightly, revealing a curious expression as he waited for Chu Renyun's report. Chu Renyun said, "Not long before I went to the consecration mountain, something happened to the ghost god Zhu Longxi was consecrating. Moreover, it was a god-king realm ghost god that lost control and escaped from his residence. It almost escaped the consecration mountain. Zhu Longxi, Zhang Yi, Ma Wenxing, Lu Fengyi and Tang Kaihe had to use all of their strength to barely trap it." Seeing Zhu Longxi and the other situation, Luo Xie from the 4th floor of the consecration mountain offered 20 million sky crystals, expressing his willingness to help them deal with the ghost god. However, when Zhu Longxi agreed, Luo Xie raised the price again, raising it to 30 million sky crystals. Moreover, if they want to capture the God King Realm Ghost God alive, they have to pay 50 million sky crystals. Hearing Chu Renyun's words, Chu Jiangshao frowned and a trace of displeasure appeared on his face. These people are consecrators of the 10,000 Demon Emperor Palace, but they don't care about the safety of the 10,000 Demon Emperor Palace and the consequences of the Ghost God's escape. They only care about their own benefit. It seems like these consecrators need to be cleaned up. Chu Renyun nodded his head repeatedly after hearing Chu Jiangshao's thoughts. He also had the same thoughts. After Chu Jiangshao spoke his thoughts, he signaled to Chu Renyun and said, "What happened after that? Did Luo Xie make a move?" Little friend Mo is also on the 6th level of the Mountain of Consecration. Did the God King Ghost lose control and escape hurt him? Chu Renyun was dumbfounded by Chu Jiangshao's question. He shook his head and said, "Consecrated Mo saw that Luo Xie was going overboard, so he volunteered and asked Zhu Longxi to give him 10 million celestial crystals in exchange for his help in subduing the God King Realm Ghost God." Chu Jiangshao's expression was one of shock. He was very surprised by this news. However, Chu Jiangshao did not say anything, and indicated for Chu Renyun to continue speaking. Luo Xie saw Sir Mo's actions and thought that Sir Mo was targeting him. He wanted to help Zhu Longxi lower the price, so he used his aura to injure Sir Mo. However, when Ma Wenxing and the others saw this, they hurriedly stopped them. Zhu Lang was desperate and accepted Sir Mo's condition. Then, Honorary Elder Mo ordered Zhu Longxi to summon the other ghosts and deities. He asked Tang Kaihe to command the battle, and Honorary Elder Mo to assist him with his divine abilities. Unexpectedly, Honorary Elder Mo, Tang Kaihe, and Zhang Yi joined forces and subdued the God King Realm Ghost God. Hearing Chu Renyun's narration, the shock on Chu Jiangshao's face became more intense. Chu Jiangshao thought for a while and sighed. A mere early heavenly soldier realm cultivator turned the tide and subdued the God King Realm Ghost God. Little friend Mo is indeed wise and brave. Hearing Chu Jiangshao's words, Chu Renyun did not stop talking and continued to tell the story. When Chu Jiangshao heard the part where Mo Qinyun and Tang Kaihe settled the debt, he was also dumbfounded. While Chu Jiangshao was shocked, he also revealed a bright smile and said, "From the current situation, little friend Mo has integrated into the Mountain of Consecration. It seems that there is no need to worry about him." Chu Renyun heard this and cursed in his heart. Now, it was not the time to worry about Mo Qinyun, but the other consecrators. At this moment, in the 10,000 Demon Emperor Palace, what happened at the Mountain of Consecration quickly spread throughout the sect. What? Consecrator Mo just went to Mountain of Consecration and robbed a consecrator of 10 million heaven crystals. I knew that Consecrator Mo would definitely rob other consecrators. This is an instinct of his. It can't be changed. Consecrator Mo is really too impressive. This speed of accumulating wealth is really terrifying. Not just that, he even commanded several other consecrators and subdued a God King Realm Ghost God that went out of control. Too impressive, a mere heavenly soldier realm cultivation, and he can participate in a God King Realm level battle. At this moment, the idolization of the disciples inside the 10,000 Demon Emperor Palace toward Mo Qingyun reached an unprecedented level. Following the continuous spread of the news, it reached the ears of Chu Li and the rest very quickly. What? Mo Qingyun just went to Mountain of Consecration and he scooped up 10 million heaven crystals. Hearing Mo Qingyun's matter, Chu Li was shocked until he opened his eyes wide, not daring to believe that this was true. Because this news was seriously too shocking. Not just Chu Li found it hard to believe, the few people beside him also had shocked expressions on their faces. How long had it been? Not even a day's time was up and Mo Qingyun already did such a shocking thing. How could this not shock them? Just what kind of freak is this guy? Can't he do something that humans do? Chu Li had a gloomy look. Feeling a strong blow, his mood was gloomy to the extreme. When he first met Mo Qingyun, he still looked down on Mo Qingyun's low cultivation and was very disdainful of Mo Qingyun. But the result? The things that Mo Qingyun did were more and more shocking each time. Pretending to be injured to cheat a God King, after cheating a God King, he also cheated a God King's descendant. Now, it was great, directly participating in a God King realm battle. This was too freakish. Thinking so in Chu Li's heart, he closed his eyes, feeling a kind of despair. Being in the same generation as Mo Qingyun was really too shocking. Regarding the rumors about himself, Mo Qingyun did not know. He had been in closed-door cultivation all along. A day's time passed by very quickly. After a day of cultivation, Mo Qingyun's injuries recovered. His cultivation even improved a little. When Mo Qingyun was cultivating, Lu Fengyi came once and left a list of materials. However, Lu Fengyi considered very thoroughly and did not really let Mo Qingyun collect the materials. The list that Lu Fengyi left was the price of each material. He helped Mo Qingyun gather everything. What Mo Qingyun needed to do now was to return the cost of these materials to Lu Fengyi. This Lu Fengyi looks boorish, but I didn't expect him to be so meticulous. Looking at the list in his hand, Mo Qingyun smiled faintly and said, "I'll go to Lu Fengyi's side to see how the armor modification is going." After Mo Qingyun finished speaking, he walked out of the courtyard and walked towards Lu Fengyi's side. Chapter 3148. Arriving outside Lu Fengyi's courtyard, Mo Qingyun felt a wave of energy coming from Lu Fengyi's courtyard. Sensing this powerful energy fluctuation, Mo Qingyun stopped in his tracks and didn't rashly walk in. Although he could resist the energy wave in the courtyard, he was not willing to take it head-on. "Consecrator Mo, your armor still needs a few days to transform. Come back in a few days." Sensing Mo Qingyun standing outside the courtyard, Lu Fengyi did not come out to greet him. He only loudly informed Mo Qingyun. Hearing Lu Fengyi's words, Mo Qingyun did not want to stay and looked at Ma Wenxing's residence. "If I ask Consecrator Ma for help, the pills refined should be better." With this thought in mind, Mo Qingyun walked towards Ma Wenxing's courtyard and saw Ma Wenxing tidying up the garden. Sensing Mo Qingyun's approach, Ma Wenxing put down the tools in his hands and greeted Mo Qingyun. "Consecrator Mo, how come you have time to come here? Is there something you need from this old man?" Although he had not been in contact with Mo Qingyun for long, Ma Wenxing was still very clear that Mo Qingyun would not visit a temple for no reason. "I came to find Senior Ma to ask for your help." Hearing Ma Wenxing's question, Mo Qingyun did not hide and directly said, "I obtained some alchemy materials and I want to ask for your help to refine a batch of pills that can improve one's aptitude." "You want me to refine pills?" Ma Wenxing's expression changed slightly. He glanced at Mo Qingyun and said, "With your cultivation talent, ordinary pills that can change one's aptitude will have very little effect on you. It could even be said that they are almost useless." Mo Qingyun's bloodline in the heaven realm belonged to the highest level. Even after his physique transformed into the amethyst thunder dragon, it was still at the peak. As a result, it would be impossible for Mo Qingyun to increase his cultivation talent through external items. Hearing Ma Wenxing's words, Mo Qingyun knew that he had misunderstood and hurriedly said, "Senior misunderstood. I didn't use it myself, but rather prepared it for my clansmen." "I see." Hearing Mo Qingyun's response, Ma Wenxing nodded in understanding. He already knew a little about Mo Qingyun's identity. Mo Qingyun was not from the heaven realm, but from an ordinary star realm. In the astral domain, the cultivation environment was harsh, the cultivation resources were scarce, and the talents of the cultivators were also very low. Mo Qingyun's situation could not be treated as a common scene. It could not even be considered an exception. "Give me your alchemy materials, I'll see what kind of pills you can refine." Understanding Mo Qingyun's meaning, Ma Wenxing didn't say much and directly had Mo Qingyun take out the materials. Mo Qingyun nodded and placed all the alchemy materials in front of Ma Wenxing. Mo Qingyun even took out some of the materials he had obtained in the star realm, just in case they might be useful. These herbs are a bit interesting, this old man has never seen them before. Seeing the alchemy materials from the star realm, Ma Wenxing was surprised. He picked them up and examined them, saying, "Although the medicinal effects aren't very strong, they are very strange. I can use them to study them." Mo Qingyun didn't care about Ma Wenxing's actions and said with a faint smile, "Senior, these alchemy materials came from the star realm. If you are interested, I will think of a way to help you collect more." Hearing Mo Qingyun's words, Ma Wenxing's eyes lit up and he showed an expectant expression, saying, "In that case, I will have to trouble you." Foreign elder Mo Qingyun nodded with a faint smile and didn't say anything else as he watched Ma Wenxing sort out the alchemy materials. After a short moment, Ma Wenxing picked out all the alchemy materials he needed and said, "These alchemy materials are useful to me. They can be used to refine the fate-reversing reincarnation heaven-seizing pill. Of course, if I want to refine the fate-reversing reincarnation heaven-seizing pill, I will need to add a few more alchemy materials." Hearing Ma Wenxing's words, Mo Qingyun's expression tightened and he hurriedly said, "Senior, what other alchemy materials do you need? I can go and prepare them." Ma Wenxing waved his hand, saying, "No need to go through so much trouble, I just happen to have some here. I will make it up to you in a bit." "How could this be?" Hearing Ma Wenxing say this, Mo Qingyun felt a bit embarrassed and prepared to compensate Ma Wenxing. However, before Mo Qingyun could finish speaking, Ma Wenxing interrupted him and said, "These alchemy materials of yours are very useful to me. I'll give you a few alchemy materials in exchange for them. If you don't agree, I won't refine any pills for you. Then I will do as Senior says." Hearing Ma Wenxing say this, Mo Qingyun didn't say anything else and accepted Ma Wenxing's suggestion. At the same time, he looked at Ma Wenxing with gratitude in his eyes. He could see that Ma Wenxing was clearly taking care of him by saying this. Although his alchemy materials weren't available in the heavenly realm, they weren't particularly precious. It was just that Ma Wenxing was interested in them and wanted to study them. Otherwise, they wouldn't have much value. "Alright, I am going to refine pills. You can do as you wish." After taking the alchemy materials from Mo Qingyun's hands, Ma Wenxing turned around and left. Seeing that Ma Wenxing was going to refine pills, Mo Qingyun didn't stay and turned around to leave the courtyard. When Mo Qingyun left the courtyard, he happened to bump into Zhang Yi, who was walking out of his residence. "Consecrated Mo, are you looking for old Ma?" Zhang Yi saw Mo Qingyun and greeted him with a faint smile. After a day of cultivation, his injuries had mostly recovered and there wasn't much of a problem. Hearing Zhang Yi's question, Mo Qingyun nodded and said, "I am looking for Senior Ma to help me refine a batch of pills." "Looking for old Ma to refine pills?" Zhang Yi's expression froze for a moment, then he revealed a playful smile and said, "Consecrated Mo, you can actually ask old Ma to refine pills. It seems like you have a lot of rare things on you. Hearing Zhang Yi's words, Emo Qingyun's expression froze. Was it difficult to ask Ma Wenxing to refine pills? Why didn't he feel anything? It was as if Ma Wenxing readily agreed to his request. Senior Zhang, why do you say that? Emo Qingyun humbly asked for guidance. Seeing that Emo Qingyun really didn't understand, Zhang Yi said, Old Ma has a rule when helping people refine pills. You have to take out something that interests him. Otherwise, no matter who you are, even if you are a God King expert, he may not give you face. Even if Palace Master Chu came forward, Old Ma would only refine 3 batches of pills for him in a year. Hearing Zhang Yi's words, Emo Qingyun's expression was shocked and he felt a little incredulous. Asking Senior Ma to refine pills is actually so difficult. Thinking back to the situation just now, Emo Qingyun felt incomparably lucky. He thought to himself, Consecrated Ma said that I didn't need it before. Could it be that he wanted to reject me and only agreed to refine pills for me after seeing the alchemy materials? Thinking of this, Emo Qingyun had a plan and knew how to get Old Ma to help him in the future. End of chapter. Chapter 3149. Exalted Elder Emo, since you have nothing to do, why don't you come over to my place? After exchanging a few words with Emo Qingyun, Zhang Yi gestured for Emo Qingyun to come over. Hearing Zhang Yi's suggestion, Emo Qingyun nodded without hesitation and followed Zhang Yi to his residence. Back in his courtyard, Zhang Yi called for Emo Qingyun to sit down and poured a cup of tea for Emo Qingyun. After pouring tea for Emo Qingyun, Zhang Yi sat down and said, Exalted Elder Emo, in our previous conversation, you mentioned that you have some understanding of formations. Why don't you tell me about it? Emo Qingyun rejoiced inside when he heard Zhang Yi take the initiative to mention formations. He nodded with a faint smile and said, Why not? Since Senior Zhang is willing to give me pointers, I am more than happy to do so. Emo Qingyun had been thinking about how to ask Zhang Yi about formations, but he didn't expect Zhang Yi to take the initiative. Zhang Yi chuckled at Emo Qingyun's words and didn't say anything. Seeing that Zhang Yi was willing to teach him, Emo Qingyun didn't hesitate and directly said to him, Senior Zhang, I'm sure you know that I'm from the star field boundary, so my knowledge of formations is limited to those below the celestial soldier realm. Zhang Yi nodded and didn't say anything, indicating that he should continue. Emo Qingyun continued, according to the astral boundary, formations below the heavenly soldier realm can be divided into 9 levels. My current level of formations is roughly at the 7th level. The formations I have come into contact with so far are next. Emo Qingyun unhurriedly talked about some of his understandings of formations. Zhang Yi kept nodding as he listened to Emo Qingyun's narration, a look of admiration in his eyes. He could tell that Emo Qingyun's understanding of formations was very thorough. Not long after, when Emo Qingyun finished, Zhang Yi nodded approvingly and said, From what you've said, I've discovered that your comprehension of formations is quite good. Your foundation is also quite solid. The reason why your progress was slow in the later stages was because you spent too little time and lacked guidance. From what you've said, you spent most of your time studying formations behind closed doors and rarely interacted with others. Emo Qingyun nodded in agreement with Zhang Yi's analysis. It wasn't just for formations but also for refining and pills. Emo Qingyun began to reflect upon this point. When I was on the Tianhun continent, everything was smooth sailing. That was because of the accumulation of experience from my past life, making it very easy for me to learn everything. Later on, when I arrived at the wild continent, although my accumulation was depleted, my experience was still there, so it wasn't difficult to learn. But when I left the wild continent, this drawback was revealed. It made it much more difficult for me to learn alchemy, refining, and formations. After Emo Qingyun reflected on this, he found his shortcomings. Of course, Mo Qingyun couldn't be blamed for such a situation. After all, it had only been less than 100 years since his rebirth. In just 100 years, many people on the Tianhan continent couldn't even reach the 9th level of the martial Dao. After chatting with Mo Qingyun for a while, Zhang Yi continued, "Although my understanding of formations isn't at the top of the heaven realm, I have some of my own insights. You can tell me some of your doubts. And hearing Zhang Yi's words, Mo Qingyun didn't stand on ceremony and immediately voiced out some of his doubts. "Senior, I've discovered that in the later stages of formations, it's no longer just a simple activation of saint power, but also the activation of the laws of heaven. My progress in formations is slow in the later stages. Is it related to the comprehension of laws? Also, is the difference between the saint-level formations of the star field realm and the god-level formations of the heaven realm in the level of laws?" Hearing Mo Qingyun's question, Zhang Yi's eyes lit up and he praised Mo Qingyun even more. He didn't expect that Mo Qingyun's understanding of formations would be so thorough even though his attainments in formations weren't high. "You're right. The biggest difference between the two is the use of laws." After hearing Mo Qingyun's question, Zhang Yi didn't hide anything and immediately answered Mo Qingyun. "Not only that, the cultivation direction of the heaven realm is also the use of the power of laws. It's no longer just the cultivation of realm power." "Realm power?" Mo Qingyun's expression froze as he asked, "Senior, the realm power you're talking about, could it be saint power?" Zhang Yi nodded and said, "Realm power is a general term. Because the heavens are too big, each realm has a different name for power. For example, you call it saint power, but other realms might call it mana, profound energy, brute force, and so on. For a better understanding, the heaven realm calls it realm power. It can save a lot of trouble." Mo Qingyun nodded in understanding. Calling it realm power was indeed much easier to understand. After explaining a few words to Mo Qingyun, Zhang Yi didn't stop talking and said, "You've just come to the heaven realm and don't seem to be familiar with it, so I'll give you some knowledge first. Looking at your battle before, although you've broken through to the heavenly soldier realm, your fighting style is still the same as in the starfield realm. You rarely use the power of laws. In the heaven realm, if you can't learn to use the laws, once you reach the heavenly general realm, you'll be the weakest type." Hearing Zhang Yi's words, Mo Qingyun's expression changed, and a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. When he fought with Chu Li and the others before, although he wasn't at a disadvantage at all, his talent was far superior to Chu Li and the others. For example, his physique was strong, and his recovery ability was astonishing. These were all things that Chu Li and the others didn't have. These advantages of his were all gone when he encountered a heavenly general undead ancient demon. Even if he resisted with all his strength, the heavenly general undead ancient demon could easily injure him with a single blow. Although the heavenly general undead ancient demon had intelligence, it couldn't be compared to humans. Therefore, it was the weakest heavenly general realm powerhouse. It was the same for the divine king realm ghost god. Although it had a certain level of intelligence, it couldn't be compared to humans. Otherwise, if it was a real divine king, all of them would have died. When Mo Qingyun thought of this, he felt a lingering fear and his expression became even more humble. Seeing Mo Qingyun's performance, Zhang Yi nodded with gratification. He was very satisfied with Mo Qingyun's humble attitude towards learning and said, "The specific division of the heaven realm is mainly based on the control of the laws. The heavenly soldier actually comprehended a trace of the laws. The heavenly general realm condensed the laws, achieved the transformation of the laws, and comprehended the origin of the concept. After reaching the great God realm, the laws will change qualitatively and can be transformed into divine weapons. The difference between a heavenly God realm powerhouse and a great God realm powerhouse is the increase in the number of laws. A heavenly God realm powerhouse has more than 10,000 law thread. The number of law threads of a divine king realm powerhouse has once again changed qualitatively. The laws are like the sea, overturning the world. I'm not very clear about the situation of the Divine Emperor and the Divine Venerable. It's too far away for you, so there's no need to understand. After listening to Zhang Yi's explanation, Emo Qingyun's face was filled with shock, and he had a lot of understanding in his heart. The direction of his cultivation in the future had also become much clearer and clearer. Chapter 3150. This little guy's appearance seems to be a little off. Seeing Emo Qingyun's appearance of having some enlightenment, Zhang Yi's brows furrowed slightly, a hint of surprise appearing on his face. Very soon, he saw Missouri Qingyun close his eyes and enter a kind of wondrous state. Seeing Emo Qingyun's performance, Zhang Yi said in surprise, He actually had an epiphany. What terrifying comprehension ability! Zhang Yi observed carefully for a while and understood Emo Qingyun's situation. He revealed a look of surprise. He really did not expect that because of his few words of guidance, it actually made Emo Qingyun directly have an epiphany. Seeing Emo Qingyun have an epiphany, Zhang Yi did not disturb Emo Qingyun, got up and walked to one side. Rise. Preventing Emo Qingyun from being disturbed by others, Zhang Yi raised his hand and beckoned, covering the 8 trigrams plate toward Emo Qingyun. Immediately, Emo Qingyun was covered inside the 8 trigrams plate, preventing being disturbed by the outside world from cultivating. Wonder what kind of gains he will have from his epiphany this time. At this moment, a strong curiosity arose in Zhang Yi's heart. Now, he somewhat understood why Emo Qingyun could advance by leaps and bounds from the lowest level cultivation plane to the heavenly realm so quickly. Taking out his 8 trigrams plate and letting Emo Qingyun cultivate in peace, Zhang Yi started to get busy with his own matters. Time passed very quickly. With Emo Qingyun wholeheartedly immersed in comprehending, 5 days passed just like that. In these 5 days, Lu Fengyi and Ma Wenxing came over one after another and left when they discovered that Emo Qingyun was cultivating. After 5 days, Lu Fengyi already modified the armor. Ma Wenxing also refined the medicinal pills. At this moment, in the 8 trigrams plate, the aura on Emo Qingyun, who had been cultivating all along without the slightest activity, suddenly became strong. Sensing Emo Qingyun's situation, Zhang Yi's expression changed, a hint of surprise appearing on his face as he said, This is the sign of laws taking form. He's preparing to manifest laws? Seeing Emo Qingyun's condition, Zhang Yi's face was filled with shock and disbelief. Under normal circumstances, as long as one's cultivation reached the heaven general realm, one would be able to manifest the laws. However, Emo Qingyun's current cultivation was only at the early stage of the heavenly soldier realm. Yet, he was about to manifest the laws. What an evildoer! Zhang Yi sighed with emotion. His gaze towards Emo Qingyun had undergone a huge change. He had seen many geniuses in his life, but it was his first time seeing someone like Emo Qingyun. While Zhang Yi was sighing inwardly, he waved his hand and put away the 8 trigrams disc. The 8 trigrams disc will hinder him from condensing laws. However, without the 8 trigrams disc's isolation, his cultivation will attract the attention of others. I have to get them to protect him and conceal his cultivation movements so that the people above won't notice. With this thought in mind, Zhang Yi sent a voice transmission to Zhu Longxi and the others, asking them to come over and help. Hearing Zhang Yi's voice transmission, Zhu Longxi and the others came over and looked at Zhang Yi in confusion. However, before they could ask Zhang Yi, their attention was attracted by Emo Qingyun. Manifestation of the laws? Tang Kaihe was shocked. His eyes widened as he said, What's going on? He's only at the early stage of the heavenly soldier realm. How can he manifest the laws? Zhang Yi was at a loss. He did not know either. Zhang Yi smiled bitterly and said, A few days ago, I saw him coming out of old Ma's courtyard and chatted with him for a while. Later, seeing that there was nothing to do, I invited him to come to my place to discuss formations. But during the conversation, he suddenly seemed to have comprehended something and directly entered a state of epiphany. After that, he was ready to manifest the laws. After listening to Zhang Yi's explanation, Lu Fengyi and the others were speechless. Could it be like this? We'll talk about the rest later. Let's quickly suppress his aura. After briefly explaining the situation to the few people, Zhang Yi urged them to take action to conceal Mo Qingyun's aura fluctuations. Hearing Zhang Yi's words, Ma Wensheng and the others immediately operated the laws to conceal Mo Qingyun's aura. Soon, Mo Qingyun's aura fluctuations disappeared, and everything returned to calm. If one observed carefully, they could still feel that the heaven and earth laws were rapidly gathering. After concealing Mo Qingyun's aura, Zhang Yi and the others looked nervously at Mo Qingyun's manifestation of the laws. Under Mo Qingyun's manifestation, the heaven and earth laws gathered more and more, faster and faster. Gradually, a light pillar as thick as an arm appeared in front of Mo Qingyun's body. Seeing such a scene, Zhang Yi and the others were stunned. This is his law thread? Is this called a thread? This is clearly a law staff. This kid is really strange. The law thread is actually so thick. Just from the appearance, the volume of his law thread is comparable to the law thread of a great god powerhouse. Hearing Zhang Yi and the others' words, Zhang Yi was shocked. A heavenly soldier's law thread condensed by a heavenly soldier was comparable to a great god realm cultivator. What kind of concept was this? How monstrous was this kid? Mo Qingyun was oblivious to Zhang Yi and the others' shock. He was concentrating on condensing the law thread. Earlier, under Zhang Yi's guidance, Huang Xiaolong had suddenly gained some enlightenment, and his view of cultivation had suddenly opened up. The Fortune Mainland's Grand Prime's law and origin was the best cultivation template. How could he give up and not use it? Why didn't he follow the Fortune Mainland's law construction method and condense his own law thread? With this thought in mind, Mo Qingyun did not hesitate and immediately tried to condense the law thread. Then there was this scene. The result proved that he was right. The law thread he condensed was much stronger than an ordinary heavenly general's law thread, comparable to a great god realm cultivator's. Of course, a great god realm cultivator's law thread was much more than Mo Qingyun's. Time passed little by little. Soon, several hours had passed, and Mo Qingyun finally withdrew from his cultivation. As Mo Qingyun withdrew from his cultivation, the law thread he condensed also stopped growing. Mo Qingyun gave it a cursory glance. His law thread was about 100 meters long and as thick as his wrist. Not bad, although not as long as the dragon claw fierce sun leopard, the thickness is about the same. Mo Qingyun smiled in satisfaction as he glanced at the thread of law. With a thought, he put it away. Seeing that Mo Qingyun had withdrawn from his cultivation, Lu Fengyi and the others hurried over, looking at him in shock. At this moment, Mo Qingyun was like a monster in their eyes. Lu Fengyi asked curiously, "Consecrated Mo, what's wrong with you? Why is your law threads so different from other people's? Is there a big difference?" Hearing Lu Fengyi's question, Mo Qingyun was astonished. Earlier, I saw a dragon claw fierce sun leopard's law thread, and it seems to be similar to mine, but slightly longer than mine. Hearing Mo Qingyun's words, Lu Fengyi and the others were even more shocked, as if they were frightened. There was a dragon claw fierce sun leopard that was even more monstrous than Mo Qingyun? End of chapter. Baidu search. 81 Chinese Websitio. No advertising message. Chapter 3151. Have you seen a dragon claw blazing sun leopard with the same nomological threads as yours? After a while, Zhang Yi finally calmed down and couldn't help but ask. Mo Qingyun nodded calmly and said, "That's right. The nomological threads condensed by the dragon claw blazing sun leopard are much longer than mine. I wonder if I'll be able to reach its level when I reach the great celestial stage. Zhang Yi and the others immediately became more natural when they heard Mo Qingyun's words. What did Mo Qingyun just say? When he reached the great celestial stage, would his nomological threads be the same as the dragon claw blazing sun leopards? Didn't that mean that the dragon claw blazing sun leopard's cultivation had reached the sky celestial stage? Zhang Yi hurriedly asked. Consecrator Mo, the dragon claw blazing sun leopard you just mentioned, is it at the great celestial stage? That's right. Mo Qingyun nodded and didn't think too much about what Zhang Yi meant. Zhang Yi and the others didn't know whether to laugh or cry when they heard such an answer from Mo Qingyun's mouth. After all this time, the dragon claw blazing sun leopard that Mo Qingyun was talking about was actually a great celestial stage brute demon. What was so strange about a great celestial stage brute demon having nomological threads as thick as a wrist and as long as 100 meters? Although they were a little depressed because Mo Qingyun didn't explain it clearly, they felt much better. At least in their opinion, the dragon claw blazing sun leopard was normal and not as monstrous as Mo Qingyun. Therefore, the blow to their hearts immediately lessened. After exchanging a few words with Mo Qingyun, Ma Wensheng walked to the front of the mountain and handed a jade bottle to Mo Qingyun. Consecrator Mo, I've refined the elixir pills you wanted. Mo Qingyun was delighted when he saw the jade bottle Ma Wensheng handed over. He hurriedly took the jade bottle. 11 pills. Mo Qingyun was even more delighted when he opened the jade bottle and took a quick glance. Originally, he thought that even with Ma Wensheng's help, he would at most be able to refine 3 to 5 pills. Who would have thought that Ma Wensheng would actually refine 11 pills? This far exceeded his expectations. Thank you, Senior Ma. Putting away the pills, Mo Qingyun cupped his hands in thanks and looked at Lu Fengyi. Seeing Mo Qingyun looking at him, Lu Fengyi immediately understood. He took out the god's armor and said, although I spent a lot of money, the power of this god's armor has increased tremendously. Due to Consecrator Mo's low cultivation, I have changed the energy required for the heavenly god Kai to be provided with heaven crystals. As long as Consecrator Mo is willing to pay the price, 10 million heaven crystals can withstand a single attack from a godly king. Of course, after blocking a god king's attack once, this Tian Shen Kai will be completely destroyed. Hearing Lu Fengyi's words, Mo Qingyun's expression was overjoyed, and his mood was immediately excited. Originally, he only thought that after the Tian Shen Kai was modified, he would be able to barely use it. He did not expect that after going through Lu Fengyi's modification, the power of the heavenly god Kai increased so much. 10 million heaven crystals, blocking a godly king's attack once, worth it? The moment Mo Qingyun thought about it in his heart, he looked at Lu Fengyi curiously and asked, Senior, blocking a godly king powerhouse's attack needs to expend 10 million heaven crystals. Blocking a celestial deity realm powerhouse, great deity realm, and heaven general realm's attacks, how many heaven crystals does it need to expend? Hearing Mo Qingyun's question, Lu Fengyi's brows furrowed slightly, revealing a pondering expression. These questions he really did not go and think before. Lu Fengyi mused for a moment before saying, blocking a celestial deity realm powerhouse's one attack roughly requires between 100,000 to 100,000 heaven crystals. As for a great deity realm's one attack, it roughly needs to expend 10,000 to 100,000 heaven crystals. Heaven general realm, just a few hundred will do. Hearing Lu Fengyi's narration, Mo Qingyun revealed a pondering expression, silently calculating in his heart. Calculating like this, with over 20 million heaven crystals on him, even if he ran into a celestial deity realm powerhouse, he also had some self-protection. While Mo Qingyun was pondering in his heart, Lu Fengyi's words did not stop, and he continued, not only so, Each time the 100 battle heaven-rending armor blocks an attack, it will even reflect 10% of the attack back onto the attacker's body. There's still such an ability? Hearing Lu Fengyi say so, the joy on Emo Qingyun's face immediately became even stronger. This way, as long as he had sufficient heaven crystals, celestial deity realm powerhouses did not need to fear either. He could just attack without restraint. Each counterattack damage would make the other party unable to bear it. Of course, this kind of thing was also just Emo Qingyun thinking about it. How could ordinary heavenly soldier realm people have several tens of millions of heaven crystals? Forget about several tens of millions of heaven crystals, even several million, several 100,000 were also very scarce. Telling Emo Qingyun about the 100 battle heaven-rending armor's ability, Lu Fengyi's face revealed a faint smile as he said, "Looking at your appearance previously, it seems like you have urgent matters to attend to and want to refine the 100 battle heaven-rending armor as soon as possible?" "Yes." Emo Qingyun nodded his head. Seeing Emo Qingyun say so, Lu Fengyi pointed at Zhang Yi and said, "If you're not afraid of spending heaven crystals, you take out 1,000,000 heaven crystals and let Zhang Yi set up a sky-stealing, sun-swapping cycle divine formation. You can completely refine the 100 battle heaven-rending armor within a day." The moment he heard Lu Fengyi's words, Emo Qingyun's expression lit up and he nodded his head in agreement without the slightest hesitation. Immediately, Emo Qingyun took out 1,000,000 heaven crystals and handed it to Zhang Yi's hand, saying, "I'll have to trouble Senior Zhang." Regarding Emo Qingyun's request, Zhang Yi did not say much either, immediately starting to set up the array formation. Several hours later, under Zhang Yi's hands, the array formation was set up, emitting a mysterious aura. After the array formation was set up, Zhang Yi condensed a hand seal, activating the array formation. Following the activation of the array formation, Emo Qingyun clearly sensed wave after wave of mysterious power pouring into his body. Sensing this power entering his body, Emo Qingyun did not hesitate at all, immediately taking out the 100 battle heaven-rending armor to refine. During the process of refining the 100 battle heaven-rending armor, Emo Qingyun clearly sensed that the power derived from the array formation was tempering the armor. Through the tempering of this power, Emo Qingyun's refining speed of the 100 battle heaven-rending armor immediately increased to the limit. Indeed, it's still good to be rich. Sensing his refining speed, Emo Qingyun was delighted in his heart and could not help sighing emotionally. While Emo Qingyun was sighing in his heart, he could not help thinking of Chu Jiangshao and thought to himself, if Big Brother Chu helps out, the speed should not be slow either, right? Emo Qingyun was just thinking about it and would not really do it. Otherwise, he would not have accepted Lu Fengyi's suggestion and requested Zhang Yi to set up the array formation for him. In his view, Chu Jiangshao gave him a lot of help. He could not go and trouble the other party anymore. Seeing Emo Qingyun refine the 100 battle heaven-rending armor, Tang Kaiha could not resist sighing and said, "Although revered Elder Emo is young, this boldness is truly extraordinary. Spending 1,000,000 heaven crystals like this, even I can't bear to part with it too." Hearing Tang Kaiha's words, Lu Fengyi and the rest nodded their heads one after another. 1,000,000 heaven crystals, even to them, was not a small sum. Chapter 3152. A day's time passed by quickly. With the support of the sky-stealing, sun-swapping divine formation, Emo Qingyun spent a day to successfully refine the 100 battle heaven-splitting armor. Since the 100 battle heaven-splitting armor is refined, it's time to return to the star field boundary. After withdrawing from cultivation, Emo Qingyun did not want to waste any time and prepared to set off immediately. Seeing Emo Qingyun withdrawing from cultivation, Zhang Yi quickly formed a hand seal and closed the sky-stealing, sun-swapping divine formation. Coming out from the sky-stealing, sun-swapping divine formation, Emo Qingyun bowed to everyone and said, "Many thanks to seniors for your help recently. I will remember this favor in my heart." If there is a chance in the future, I will definitely repay it. Emo Qingyun's gratitude and promise made Zhang Yi and the others nod with gratified smiles on their faces. They could see that Emo Qingyun was sincerely grateful to them and was not pretending to be polite. Emo Qingyun's potential was great. A favor from him was still very important. Seniors, I still have matters to attend to, so I won't chat with you anymore. After thanking them, Emo Qingyun did not waste any more time. He bade them farewell and said, "Wait until I'm done with my business and return to the 10,000 Demon Emperor Palace. I'll have a good chat with you all." "Okay. Be careful." Listening to Emo Qingyun's words, they smiled faintly and reminded Emo Qingyun. At this moment, while they were talking, Yun Luo came again and said, "Young Palace Master, you're done cultivating. Can we set off?" And Emo Qingyun nodded and looked at Lu Fengyi, thinking, "There's no time. Otherwise, I could ask Senior Lu to help me refine a powerful divine weapon." When Emo Qingyun thought of this, he felt a little regretful and did not speak to Lu Fengyi. However, it was useless for Emo Qingyun to ask. His wealth might not be enough to refine a divine weapon. The strengthening materials that LV Fengyi provided previously were worth over 5 million heaven crystals. Excluding these heaven crystals, the number of heaven crystals on Emo Qingyun's body was just over 16 million. Emo Qingyun estimated in his heart that it would cost at least 15 million heaven crystals to forge a heavenly divine weapon that he could use. In this way, he had the heavenly deity weapon and heavenly deity armor, but he did not have the heaven crystals to power them. "Let's go." After talking to everyone, Emo Qingyun signaled Yun Luo and flew out of the Consecration Mountain. Soon, Emo Qingyun and Yi Zichen left Consecration Mountain and flew towards the Sky Demon Mountain range. As soon as the two of them entered the Sky Demon Mountain range, Yun Luo took out her magic treasure and released her aura to intimidate the surrounding demonic beast. In the intelligent demon region, the two of them had a smooth journey. Soon, they arrived at the barbarian demon region. After entering the barbarian demon region, Emo Qingyun and his companion were much more careful. They didn't run as fast as before. However, although the two of them were much more careful, they were also not as nervous as the previous few times. With the previous few experiences, the path that Emo Qingyun and Yi Zichen chose did not have powerful barbarian demons along the way. Even some powerful barbarian demons, their strength was only at the Heaven General realm. Now, Emo Qingyun had the heavenly deity armor protecting him and also condensed law threads. Even facing a Heaven General realm barbarian demon, he did not have the slightest fear. Although he still could not beat it, it was still not difficult to preserve his life. Encountering the big dog this time, if it dares to find trouble again, see if I don't teach it a lesson. Recalling how they were abused by the Dragonclaw fierce sun leopard during the previous few times, Emo Qingyun felt displeased in his heart. It better not let him find a chance. Otherwise, he would definitely beat up the Dragonclaw fierce sun leopard until it doubted its life as a demon. Under Emo Qingyun and Yi Zichen's familiarity, they arrived in front of the spatial rift very quickly. Not disappointing Emo Qingyun, the two of them had just arrived in front of the spatial rift when they encountered the Dragonclaw fierce sun leopard. Roar! Seeing that Emo Qingyun and Yi Zichen were here again, the Dragonclaw fierce sun leopard was instantly enraged. In its opinion, these two little fellows were too arrogant as they repeatedly challenged its tolerance limit. What's so great about being a descendant of a divine king? How can a descendant of a divine king be so arrogant and bully an honest demon like this? The Dragonclaw fierce sun leopard roared and charged towards Emo Qingyun and Yi Zichen. It swung its paw at Emo Qingyun and Yi Zichen. "I was waiting for you to make a move." Seeing the Dragonclaw fierce sun leopard attacking, Emo Qingyun revealed a faint smile and his eyes were filled with anticipation. Although he heard from Lu Fengyi about the specific situation of the 100 battle heaven splitting armor, he still wanted to personally test it. A heaven god realm demon beast was too powerful, and blocking its attack would consume too much energy. It was not a target that Mo Qingyun considered. A heaven general demon beast was not powerful enough and might not be able to detect any result. Therefore, a great god realm demon beast was the most suitable target. Coincidentally, he had a grudge with the Dragonclaw fierce sun leopard. Cast. Facing the Dragonclaw fierce sun leopard's attack, Mo Qingyun did not retreat and directly cast out the divine armor. Immediately, a shocking aura erupted from Mo Qingyun's body. Sensing Mo Qingyun's aura, the Dragonclaw fierce sun leopard's body trembled and fear emerged in its eyes. After not seeing him for a few days, it clearly felt that Mo Qingyun was stronger than before. Not only that, this time, Mo Qingyun's body had an additional defensive armor. Judging from the aura of the armor, it seemed to be very terrifying and made the Dragonclaw fierce sun leopard somewhat fearful. Noticing such a situation, the Dragonclaw fierce sun leopard's gaze changed greatly. Although the Dragonclaw fierce sun leopard was startled, it did not hesitate to attack. Bang! Its claw slammed down and directly hit the 100 battle heaven splitting armor, causing the armor to flash with light. Immediately after, an imposing light wave exploded from the 100 battle heaven splitting armor. Bang! When the light wave blasted out, it struck the Dragonclaw fierce sun leopard and violently sent it flying. The Dragonclaw fierce sun leopard let out a miserable shriek and immediately pulled away from Mo Qingyun. 17,000 heaven crystals have been consumed. After blocking the Dragonclaw fierce sun leopard's attack, Mo Qingyun immediately knew how many heaven crystals had been consumed to block the attack. This Dragonclaw fierce sun leopard had been in the Great God Realm for a long time and was not far from the mid-Great God Realm. Blocking its full attack consumed 17,000 heaven crystals, which was about the same as what Lu Fengyi had said. "Big dog, aren't you very arrogant? Why are you scared now?" Seeing the Dragonclaw fierce sun leopard's fearful eyes and not daring to attack him, Mo Qingyun faintly smiled. Shortly after, he flew towards the Dragonclaw fierce sun leopard with extreme arrogance. As for Yun Luo, she also took out her sword Dao Origin and looked like she was going to attack the Dragonclaw fierce sun leopard. Seeing Mo Qingyun and Yun Luo's stance, the Dragonclaw fierce sun leopard was depressed to the extreme. They were simply bullying a demon. Roar. Under the pressure of Mo Qingyun and Yun Luo, the Dragonclaw fierce sun leopard let out an unwilling roar and turned around to flee. It had no choice but to flee. Mo Qingyun and Yun Luo both had stronger trump cards than the other. They were clearly bullying it. Seeing the Dragonclaw fierce sun leopard fleeing, Mo Qingyun did not chase after it and greeted Yun Luo. This time, he finally vented his anger. End of chapter. Chapter 3153. Let's go. After scaring the Dragonclaw fierce sun leopard away, Mo Qingyun walked towards the spatial rift and took out the heaven-sealing purple thunder bell. Taking out the heaven-sealing purple thunder bell, Mo Qingyun and Yun Luo entered together. With the previous experience, Mo Qingyun entering the spatial rift again could be said to be a walk in the park. Very soon, the spatial rift back to the star domain boundary was found by Mo Qingyun. Mo Qingyun steered the heaven-sealing purple thunder bell and easily passed through the spatial rift, returning to the star domain boundary. I wonder how the true Primordium Devil Hall situation is during this period of time? Putting away the heaven-sealing purple thunder bell, Mo Qingyun was anxious to return home and developed a sense of worry. Mo Qingyun raised his hand and beckoned. A flying boat with an astonishing aura appeared in front of him. This flying boat was extorted from Yu Li in the ancient demon cave. The two leaped onto the flying boat. Mo Qingyun steered the flying boat and flew towards the true Primordium Devil Hall. The heavenly god-level flying boat's speed was extremely fast. Emo Qingyun's Pegasus realm crossing leap might not be faster than it. As expected of a heavenly god-level flying boat, its speed is indeed incomparably fast. Feeling the flying boat's speed, Emo Qingyun exclaimed in his heart and revealed a satisfied smile. Although his Pegasus realm crossing leap speed was very fast, the consumption was also extremely great. Even with his current cultivation, he would feel some pressure after using it more than 10 times. Continuously using Pegasus realm crossing leap 10 times, the flying distance was not too far. It was far inferior to driving a heavenly god-level flying boat. In less than 2 hours, Emo Qingyun and Yun Luo steered the flying boat and arrived above the true Primordial Devil Hall. Standing above the true Primordial Devil Hall, Emo Qingyun discovered that there were many factions setting up camp around the true Primordial Devil Hall. Looking at the posture of these camps, it seemed like they were besieging the true Primordial Devil Hall. These fellows are indeed restless. Looking at the campsite around the true Absolute Beginning Devil Hall, Emo Qingyun chuckled as a chill emanated from his body. Seeing Emo Qingyun's performance, Yun Luo's beautiful eyes moved and asked, "Young Palace Master, these guys actually took advantage of your absence to attack the true Absolute Beginning Devil Hall. Should we slaughter them?" Hearing Yun Luo's question, Emo Qingyun shook his head and said, "There's no rush to destroy them. Let's return to the true Demon Hall first and see how everyone is doing." As soon as Emo Qingyun finished speaking, he brought Yun Luo with him and disappeared from the spot. When Emo Qingyun's figure appeared again, he had already arrived at the true Absolute Beginning Devil Hall. When Emo Qingyun entered the true Absolute Beginning Devil Hall, he realized that some of the disciples were injured. However, although everyone was injured, they still had an aura that soared into the sky. Looks like the constant fighting these days has tempered the disciples. Sensing the disciples' situation, the corners of Emo Qingyun's mouth curled up slightly as an idea came to his mind. He thought to himself, "I'm now in the 10,000 Demon Emperor Palace, so it's very convenient for me to return to the true Absolute Beginning Devil Hall. But if I leave the 10,000 Demon Mountain Range, it won't be easy for me to return. Therefore, I have to make sure that the true Absolute Beginning Devil Hall will never have any future troubles." What Emo Qingyun wanted to do now was not to destroy all the enemies, but to make the true Absolute Beginning Devil Hall stronger. At this moment, Emo Qingyun suddenly realized that his previous thoughts were wrong. If he destroyed all the enemies, the disciples of the true Absolute Beginning Devil Hall would no longer be pressured, and their cultivation speed would definitely slow down. At that time, if someone broke through to the Heaven General Realm in the Star Domain Realm, the true Absolute Beginning Devil Hall would also be in danger. Therefore, only when the true Absolute Beginning Devil Hall became stronger would they not be afraid of all dangers. Everyone is in the conference hall. Let's go. Emo Qingyun released his consciousness and sensed the true Absolute Beginning Devil Hall, then he walked towards the conference hall. Hearing Emo Qingyun's words, Yun Luo hurriedly followed and quickly arrived at the conference hall. Emo Qingyun and Yun Luo walked into the conference hall. Everyone was already gathered there, as if they were discussing something. Seeing everyone's expressions, Emo Qingyun's mood relaxed a little. From the looks of it, the situation wasn't too serious. Everyone was still fine. "Qingyun, you're back. Master is back." "That's great, Mr. Emo is back." Seeing Emo Qingyun walk into the hall, everyone was pleasantly surprised and stood up to welcome him. Towards everyone's actions, Emo Qingyun waved his hand with a faint smile, indicating that there was no need to be so polite. After a while, when Emo Qingyun and Yun Luo sat down, Lei Muwen's pretty face was nervous. She said, "Qingyun, did you find the origin of the heavenly general concept during your trip to the Heaven Realm?" "I found it." Hearing Lei Muwen's question, Emo Qingyun nodded and said, "Did you find all the refining materials you were looking for?" Seeing that Emo Qingyun had found the origin of the heavenly general concept, Lei Muwen and the others were all overjoyed. However, when Mo Qingyun asked about the refining materials they were looking for, all of them frowned. Their search for refining materials wasn't particularly smooth. There were still a few that they hadn't found. Lei Muwen pondered for a while and said, "We found the 100-million-year-old scorching iron essence and some other materials, but we didn't find the Genesis Netherworld stone. Like the heavenly general concept, it doesn't seem to belong to the astral realm." Hearing Lei Muwen's words, the corners of Mo Qingyun's mouth curled up slightly. He smiled and said, "What a coincidence! I obtained a lot of refining materials in the heaven realm this time. Coincidentally, the Genesis Netherworld stone was among them. However, I didn't find the 100-million-year-old scorching iron essence. Take out the refining materials you obtained and let me take a look. Let's see if we can complement each other." Hearing Mo Qingyun's words, Lei Muwen and the others didn't hesitate and immediately took out the refining materials. Soon, one by one, rare refining materials appeared in front of Mo Qingyun. "It seems like it's just as I thought. Some refining materials are only in the heaven realm, while others are only in the astral realm." Seeing the refining materials in front of him, Mo Qingyun revealed a look of understanding. He had an answer to his guess. He said, "If our refining materials complement each other, we'll have all the materials to upgrade the Divine Sword of Nine Bulls. We can start upgrading the Divine Sword of Nine Bulls." Hearing Mo Qingyun's words, everyone was overjoyed, and their expressions relaxed. Once the Divine Sword of Nine Bulls was upgraded, even if the Dark Demon Sacred Lord broke through, they would have a way to fight back. After chatting with everyone for a while, Mo Qingyun revealed a curious expression. He said, "How are the Dark Star and the Thunder Ice Phoenix? Did they successfully break through to the heavenly general realm?" Hearing Mo Qingyun's question, everyone shook their heads. Disappointment flashed through their eyes. Seeing everyone's reaction, Mo Qingyun wasn't disappointed. He appeared very calm. Breaking through to the heavenly general realm wasn't easy. Although Mo Qingyun had made a trip to the heaven realm, it had only been a few days. It was obviously not easy to break through from the heavenly soldier realm to the heavenly general realm in just a few days. However, now that he had the 100 battle heaven splitting armor, Mo Qingyun had no more worries. Once the Divine Sword of Nine Bulls was upgraded, even if the Sacred Lord broke through to the heavenly general realm, he would be able to fight him. Chapter 3154. Since I have all the materials, let's upgrade the Nine Bull Divine Sword first. After putting away the materials, Mo Qingyun didn't want to waste any time and prepared to start refining immediately. Hearing Mo Qingyun's thoughts, Lei Muwenxiu moved slightly and said, "Qingyun, how are we going to deal with the people from the various sects surrounding the true Grand Primordium Devil Hall? Should we drive them away?" "No need." Mo Qingyun shook his head and said, "During this period of time, the sect has obtained a large amount of cultivation resources, allowing the cultivation of the disciples to soar. The rapid growth of their cultivation has made their foundation unstable. They need to go through some battle strength to adapt to the sudden increase in strength. Now that the people from the various sects are gathered here, it's a good target for everyone to train their battle strength. As long as they don't attack on a large scale, there's no need to pay attention to them." Hearing Mo Qingyun's words, Lei Muwen and the others nodded and noted it down. Their expressions became more relaxed. In their opinion, since Mo Qingyun had returned, it didn't matter even if the various sects attacked on a large scale. The true absolute beginning Devil Hall wasn't weaker than them. The only thing they were worried about now was that the Dark Demon Race's Holy Lord had broken through to the Heaven General Realm. "I'm going to upgrade the Nine Bull Divine Sword. Don't call me if there's nothing for the next few days." After explaining to everyone, Mo Qingyun got up and walked out of the hall to refine the Nine Bull Divine Sword. Mo Qingyun went to upgrade the Nine Bull Divine Sword, and Yun Luo followed closely behind. She had returned to the clan this time, and studied the 12 Godly Swords forging manual. Now that Emo Qingyun was upgrading the 9-Bull Divine Sword, she should be able to help a little if she was by his side. Emo Qingyun didn't refuse Yun Luo's following. He had the same thoughts as Yun Luo. After coming out of the meeting hall, Emo Qingyun didn't immediately go into seclusion. Instead, he went to Enchen's residence. Arriving at Enchen's residence, Emo Qingyun released his divine sense to sense Enchen's situation. The laws are beginning to manifest. This is the sign of advancing to the Heaven General Realm. Sensing Enchen's situation, Emo Qingyun nodded in satisfaction and said, "The laws that Enchen comprehended in his previous life were the laws of the celestial realm. Thus, when he breaks through in the astral boundary, he needs to comprehend the laws of the astral boundary again. It's because of this that his breakthrough became more difficult and delayed some time. However, judging from the current situation, it won't be long before Enchen breaks through to the heavenly general stage." After knowing Enchen's situation, Emo Qingyun did not disturb him and withdrew his divine consciousness. Emo Qingyun withdrew his divine sense. His figure moved again, and he came to the sky above the Jadefall Frost Pool. Arriving at the edge of the Jadefall Lake, Emo Qingyun once again released his divine sense to sense the situation of the Luai's Ice Phoenix. Emo Qingyun had a clear understanding of the Thunder Ice Phoenix's situation after probing it for a while. Although the Luai's Ice Phoenix has comprehended the laws of the astral boundary, the degree of condensation is far inferior to Enchen's. It seems that it's more difficult to break through. After sensing the Luai's Ice Phoenix's situation, Emo Qingyun withdrew his divine consciousness and frowned slightly. He thought to himself, "The law threads that I have condensed are also the laws of the celestial realm. I wonder if they can be used in the astral boundary?" With this thought in mind, Emo Qingyun no longer hesitated and immediately urged the law threads. Under Emo Qingyun's urging, a light pillar that was dozens of meters long appeared in front of him. Emo Qingyun frowned as he looked at his nomological threads and thought to himself, "The power of my nomological threads seems to be suppressed. It seems that the nomological laws of different realms will be suppressed in other realms." When Emo Qingyun discovered this, he didn't find it strange. He felt that this was very normal. After understanding his situation, Emo Qingyun added, "Although it is suppressed, my law threads are very powerful. Even if the Dark Demon Sacred Master broke through to the Sky General grade, the law threads he condensed shouldn't be comparable to mine." With this thought in mind, Emo Qingyun withdrew the law threads and returned to Yun Luo's side. "Let's go and refine the 9-Bull Divine Sword." After instructing Yun Luo, Emo Qingyun walked forward and returned to his residence. Yun Luo followed closely behind him, and they arrived at Emo Qingyun's residence together. When Emo Qingyun returned to his residence, he didn't waste any time and immediately took out the refining materials. When she saw Emo Qingyun take out the refining materials, Yun Luo started to sort them out and put them aside in an orderly manner. Soon, the refining materials were ready and waiting for Emo Qingyun to start refining them. Boom! After everything was ready, Emo Qingyun didn't waste any time and immediately condensed a ball of flame. Then, Emo Qingyun picked up a refining material and started to refine and purify it. Seeing Emo Qingyun condense the refining materials, Yun Luo didn't hesitate and helped him with all her might. Next, Mo Qingyun and Yun Luo worked together to improve the 9-Bull Divine Sword. When Emo Qingyun and Yun Luo were improving the 9-Bull Divine Sword, Lei Muin and the others didn't hesitate and led their disciples to fight with the various sections. However, according to Emo Qingyun's instructions, they didn't participate in the battle and only allowed the disciples with lower cultivation to participate. The various sects didn't think much of Lei Muin and the others' actions and only sent out disciples with lower cultivation. They had come to invade the True Devil Palace because they were forced to do so, and had no choice but to do so. Lei Muan, even if the dark demon race's holy lord has broken through the limits of a great emperor, don't put up a pointless struggle. Looking at Lei Muan in the true demon palace, Cheng Xingyi, who had a good relationship with Mo Qingyun, tried to persuade her as if he couldn't bear it. He seemed to be worried that Lei Muan wouldn't have a good ending if she continued to resist. Lei Muan shook her head at Cheng Xingyi's persuasion and said, "You want me to surrender? Unless you destroy the true demon palace, it's impossible." Cheng Xingyi sighed after hearing such an answer from Lei Muan and didn't continue to persuade her. After knowing Lei Muan's attitude, Lin Qingxuan and the others beside Cheng Xingyi all had heavy expressions. The true demon palace was very strong. If they continued to resist stubbornly, it wouldn't be a good thing for them. At that time, even if they broke through the true demon palace, they would probably have to pay a price. More importantly, they had besieged the true demon palace for many days and hadn't seen Mo Qingyun appear. This made them very uneasy. Logically speaking, with Mo Qingyun's strong personality, he definitely wouldn't allow them to do so. Although they didn't understand, they had no choice but to do so under the pressure of the dark demon race. At that moment, while Cheng Xingyi and the others were sighing, several figures flew toward them. Seeing these figures arrive, Cheng Xingyi and the others tensed up. Anger surged in their eyes. Ing Wudi and the others had arrived. "Welcome, elders." Seeing Ing Wudi and the others arrive, Lin Qingxuan and the others showed fear on their faces and bowed. Soon, Ing Wudi and the others entered the camp with Lin Qingxuan and the others. Chapter 3155. Have there been any strange movements in Absolute beginning Devil Hall recently? Ing Wudi sat at the top of the tent and asked the people below with a lofty attitude. Lin Qingxuan and the others had a heavy expression. Cheng Xingyi said, "There hasn't been any strange movements in Absolute beginning Devil Hall. Mo Qingyun hasn't shown himself either. I don't know what they're planning." Fan Yuqin frowned when she heard Cheng Xingyi's words. She thought for a moment and said, "Oh right, a disciple reported to me that something is wrong with Mo Qingyun. His cultivation has become a sector lord. I didn't pay much attention to it before. I thought the disciple had sensed wrongly. He hasn't shown himself recently. Could it be true?" Hearing Fan Yuqin's words, the expressions of Ing Wudi and the others changed, shock appearing on their faces. If it was true, it was a little unusual. Where is that disciple now? Ing Wudi's expression was tense as he asked Fan Yuqin. Fan Yuqin said, "I'll summon him now and ask him to explain the situation." Ing Wudi and the others nodded and gestured for Fan Yuqin to summon the disciple. Soon, a young man in the intermediate stage of Sector Lord Realm entered the tent. "Greetings, lords." He glanced at everyone in the tent and bowed respectfully. Fan Yuqin waved her hand indifferently at the young man's bow. "Wang Zheng, report what you saw that day to Elder Ing Wudi." "Yes," Wang Zheng replied. "That day when we fought with Absolute beginning Devil Hall, Mo Qingyun was standing beside Lei Muan and seemed to be discussing something. However, Mo Qingyun's aura was very different from when he was in the Alliance. He didn't give us any pressure at all. I didn't understand and released my soul to sense. I discovered that Mo Qingyun's cultivation is only at the Sector Lord realm. I discovered this and told a few others about it. They all sensed it and the result was the same as mine." Ing Wudi and the others' expressions changed slightly after hearing Wang Zheng's explanation. It seemed like it wasn't fake. "You may leave." After Wang Zheng finished speaking, Fan Yuqin waved her hand and let him leave the tent first. As for calling the others, Ing Wudi and the others didn't do so. They didn't think it was necessary. In their opinion, even if Wang Zheng was given 10 guts, he would also not dare to lie in front of everyone. Although Wang Zheng confirmed that Fan Yuqin was telling the truth, Ing Wudi did not fully believe her. Ing Wudi pondered for a moment and said, "Mo Qingyun is very cunning. We can't be careless with him. Do you think his cultivation has really slipped, or is he deliberately hiding it to set us up? Hearing Ing Wudi's words, Lin Qingxuan and the others looked at each other, uncertain for a moment. With their understanding of Mo Qingyun, it was not impossible for him to do such a thing. However, with the strength of the true beginning Devil Hall, Mo Qingyun did not need to do so. Lin Qingxuan thought for a moment and spoke his thoughts first. He said, I think that Mo Qingyun must have made a mistake in his cultivation, causing his cultivation to slip. Otherwise, with Mo Qingyun's domineering personality, he wouldn't have reacted to our encirclement of the true beginning Devil Hall. As soon as Lin Qingxuan finished speaking, Cheng Xingyi continued, I think so too. Not only has Mo Qingyun not appeared, but even in Chen, Xian Yang and the others have not appeared. This is too strange. In my opinion, these people have not appeared at all. They should be treating Mo Qingyun, and have no time to care about our invasion. Ma Bei and the others did not speak, but nodded in agreement. After hearing Lin Qingxuan and Cheng Xingyi's thoughts, Ing Wudi thought for a moment and agreed with them. He said, if that's the case, now is the best time to attack the true beginning Devil Hall. Lin Qingxuan and the others immediately became stern when they heard Ing Wudi's words. Mo Qingyun's cultivation had slipped, and An Chun and the others needed to treat Mo Qingyun, so they could not pay attention to their invasion. However, if they attacked with their full strength, An Chun and the others would definitely appear and fight to the death with them. The true beginning Devil Hall was very powerful. If they really fought to the death, they might not be able to gain an advantage. Ing Wudi's face sank when he saw Lin Qingxuan and the others' behavior. He became displeased and said, looking at your behavior, you don't seem to be willing to wage war against the true beginning Devil Hall. Could it be that your submission to my clan is just a temporary measure, and you're prepared to feign civility with us? Lin Qingxuan and the others panicked when they heard Ing Wudi's rebuke. They immediately explained to Ing Wudi. Please do not be angry, Holy Emperor Ing Wudi. We're not dawdling. We just want to be careful. The true beginning Devil Hall is not weak. Even if something has happened to Mo Qingyun's cultivation, we cannot be careless. Moreover, it's a crucial time for the Sacred Lord to break through. We don't want to act rashly and cause unnecessary changes. Ing Wudi's expression improved slightly after Lin Qingxuan and the others' explanation. Afterwards, Ing Wudi ordered Lin Qingxuan and the others with a sunken face, you don't have to worry about the Sacred Lord's breakthrough. I've come this time to tell you that the Sacred Lord has successfully broken through. Now that the Sacred Lord has successfully broken through, there's nothing to worry about. Lin Qingxuan and the others were shocked when they heard Ing Wudi's words. They all paled. The Sacred Lord of the Dark Demons had really broken through. His cultivation had surpassed Emperor level. With that, the astral boundary would probably be completely under the control of the Dark Demons from now on. Congratulations, Sacred Lord! Although they were very shocked and unwilling, Lin Qingxuan and the others still congratulated him. There was nothing they could do. At this point, all of their resistance was meaningless. Very soon, despair appeared on everyone's faces. Ing Wudi sneered proudly when he saw Lin Qingxuan and the others' reaction. The Sacred Lord's cultivation has broken through. You don't have to be afraid anymore. Attack the true beginning Devil Hall with all your might. Lin Qingxuan and the others exchanged glances and shook their heads helplessly when they heard Ing Wudi's words. Ing Wudi ignored what Lin Qingxuan and the others were thinking. He got up and walked out of the tent. Very soon, everyone arrived above the true beginning Devil Hall under Ing Wudi's lead. Ing Wudi's face turned cold when he looked at the true beginning Devil Hall below. He shouted, Mo Qingyun, haven't you always wanted to deal with me? Now that I'm here, do you have the ability to come out and fight me? Ing Wudi's words spread throughout the true beginning Devil Hall and attracted the attention of Lei Muan and the others. Lei Muan and the others all looked over when they heard Ing Wudi's words. They faced off against Ingwudi and the others. End of chapter. Chapter 3156. You're just a clown. There's no need for Qing Yun to deal with you. Lei Muwen snorted softly when she saw Ingwudi in the air. Disdain appeared on her face as she said, "There's no point in just boasting. Bring it on if you have the ability. My true primordium demon hall fears no one." Hearing Lei Muwen's words, Zhou Jing and the others beside her looked like they were ready to fight to the bitter end. Lin Qingxuan couldn't bear to see how Lei Muwen and the others were behaving. He said, "Hall Master Lei, Hall Master Zhou, the Sacred Lord has already broken through the limits of a great emperor and ascended to the highest realm. Resistance is meaningless. Don't make unnecessary sacrifices." Lin Qingxuan's reminder made Lei Muwen and the others' expressions change slightly. They were a little surprised by this news. However, it was just a surprise. They didn't panic at all. Mo Qingyun was already refining the divine sword of Nine Bull. As long as it was completed, he would have a trump card to fight against the Sacred Lord. In that case, they should fight to the end and buy enough time for Mo Qingyun. Looking at Lin Qingxuan and the others, Lei Muwen said calmly, "So what if he broke through? My true beginning demon hall fears no one. If the Sacred Lord is really capable, feel free to come and fight." Lei Muwen's domineering attitude made Lin Qingxuan and the others' expressions change. Admiration rose up in their hearts. Lei Muwen wasn't old, but her aura and courage weren't something they could compare to. When they heard that the Sacred Lord had broken through, their first thought was despair. However, Lei Muwen wanted to fight. This difference in mentality led to different situations. Lei Muwen and the others were still resisting. They still had the right to control their own fates and fought for a chance to win. On the other hand, what about them? They had completely lost themselves and become tools of the dark demon race. They couldn't control their own lives. "You talk big." Hearing Lei Muwen's words, Ingwudi snorted coldly and said, "There's no need for the Holy Lord to personally deal with people like you." Seeing that Ingwudi was imitating her, Lei Muwen curled her lips in disdain and said, "Do you only know how to imitate me? Since the Holy Lord's cultivation has broken through, why doesn't he even dare to show his face? Didn't the dark demons see us as a thorn in their side? Since the Holy Lord has made a breakthrough in his cultivation and has the strength to deal with us, why is he still hiding? Could it be that what you said just now was all a lie? Were you just trying to scare us? Don't you think this method is a little childish?" Lei Muwen's series of questions left Ingwudi speechless, not knowing how to answer. Although he was right, the Sacred Master disdained to make a move. But according to what Lei Muwen said, the Holy Lord did not show himself even after breaking through. It was as if he was afraid of the true absolute beginning Devil Palace. Seeing that Ingwudi was speechless, Lin Qingxuan and the others sighed, a hint of sadness appearing in their eyes. They were the same as Lei Muwen. If they had fought the dark demons to the death when facing the attack of the dark demons, they might not have ended up in their current state. A single misstep could lead to everlasting sorrow. One wrong step and the whole game would be lost. Ingwudi, cut the crap. If you want to fight, then fight. If you don't dare, then scram. After exchanging a few words with Ingwudi, Lei Muwen did not waste time talking nonsense and directly urged Ingwudi. Seeing Lei Muwen's domineering attitude, Ingwudi's face turned green. He clenched his fists tightly and shouted, "Attack with full force. I want to see what you have to be so arrogant." Ingwudi was very clear in his heart that if he did not give the order to attack, their morale would plummet. Not only that, but people would probably doubt the Holy Lord's breakthrough that he said earlier. Many people would think in their hearts that since the Holy Lord's cultivation had broken through, why didn't he personally destroy the true absolute beginning Devil Palace? With the Holy Lord's strength that surpassed the great Emperor level, it seemed very easy to destroy the true absolute beginning Devil Palace. Yes. Hearing Ingwudi's order, Lin Qingxuan and the others responded and flew towards Lei Muan and the others. Facing the attack of Lin Qingxuan and the others, Zhao Sun frowned and said, "Miss Lei, before our benefactor went into seclusion, he told us not to participate in the battle. If we fight with them now, will it affect our benefactor's refinement of the divine weapon?" Zhao Sun's worry was also thought of in Lei Muan's heart. She said, "I've also thought about this problem. However, in the current situation, it's not useful for us to retreat. If the Dark Devil Race's Holy Lord really broke through, Ingwudi and the others will definitely come this time to launch an all-out attack. Since this battle is unavoidable, there's no reason for us to retreat. Why don't we take the initiative to start the battle? At least we'll have the upper hand in terms of morale." Hearing Lei Muan's words, Zhao Sun nodded and felt that Lei Muan's idea was not bad. Very soon, Lei Muan and the others clashed. The battle immediately shook the surroundings. However, Ingwudi and the others had a few more Saint Emperors than Lei Muan's side. As a result, Lei Muan and the others were forced into a passive position against the attacks of Ingwudi and the others. After suppressing Lei Muan and the others, Ingwudi sneered complacently and said, "Lei Muan, why hasn't Mo Qingyun come out yet? Don't tell me he's encountered some mishap and died in some crack in the ground?" As soon as Ingwudi's words fell, he smirked coldly, his arrogance reaching its peak. Lei Muan's expression did not change at all in response to Ingwudi's probing. She sneered and said, "I've already told you that there's no need for Qingyun to come out to deal with you. We're enough." Before Ingwudi could say anything, Lei Muan looked at Polar Ice and said, "Palace Master Polar Ice, summon Xian Yang, Lei Zhe, and the Ice Phoenix. Get them to come out and help us." "Yes." Polar Ice returned to the True Demon Hall with a flash after hearing Lei Muan's words. Ingwudi immediately became even more complacent when he saw Lei Muan's actions. He smiled. "Lei Muan, have you forgotten two people? Where did Mo Qingyun and Enchun go? Aren't they the main force of the True Demon Hall? If the two of them don't come out, it doesn't matter how many of you come." Lei Muan's smile deepened when she saw Ingwudi's shameless expression. She said, "Isn't it a good thing that Qin Yun and Enchun aren't attacking and let them live a little longer?" As Lei Muan and the others fought, two powerful auras radiated from the True Demon Hall. Soon after, the crowd saw two figures appear and quickly join the battle. What a powerful demon beast! This demon beast's strength seems to have surpassed the level of great emperors. I didn't expect the True Demon Hall to hide such a divine guardian beast. Lin Qingxuan and the others trembled when they sensed the Ice Phoenix's aura. Intense fear surged into their eyes. Then, Ingwudi and the others' expressions turned serious. They put away their previous contempt. End of chapter. Chapter 3157. This Luai's Ice Phoenix's aura is about to break through the Emperor realm. Sensing the Luai's Ice Phoenix's aura, Ingwudi's expression shook. His eyes were filled with shock as he thought to himself, "It hasn't appeared yet. Perhaps it's preparing to break through the Emperor realm? It's just that the situation is urgent right now." Lei Muan had no choice but to let it out to resolve the crisis. "This Luai's Ice Phoenix is like this. Enchun hasn't appeared yet. Is it also like this?" Ingwudi's expression became serious as he thought of this. He felt a strong sense of unease. If that was the case, it definitely wasn't a good thing for the dark demons. If Enchun broke through, they wouldn't have the slightest advantage even if the Sacred Lord broke through. More importantly, if the stalemate continued and the Luai's Ice Phoenix broke through, the dark demons would be in a terrible situation. When Ingwudi thought of this, he felt a lingering fear. His expression became gloomy as he said, "Mo Qingyun is really insidious. He actually hid such a trick. It seems that he suppressed his cultivation before in order to numb us." The more Ingwudi thought about it, the angrier his expression became. His killing intent became stronger and stronger. Of course, while Ingwudi was angry, he was more worried and uneasy. Originally, they thought that since the Sacred Lord had successfully broken through, there would be no pressure to kill Mo Qingyun. Now, it seemed that the situation wasn't so. There were many changes in the true Primordium Demon Hall. No, I have to go back and tell the Sacred Lord as soon as possible to kill Mo Qingyun and the others personally. Thinking that Enchun and the others were about to break through to the Sky General Realm, Ingwudi felt a strong sense of unease. Immediately, Ingwudi's battle intent weakened a lot because of this. There was no helping it. Even if they tried their best, they couldn't suppress Lei Muwen and the others. The Luai's Ice Phoenix was too strong. It had the upper hand even when fighting 1 against 2. The difference in strength was too great. Looking at the current situation, unless the Sacred Lord acted personally, no one could do anything to it. As Ingwudi and the others' battle intent weakened, the scales of victory began to lean toward the true Primordium Demon Hall. Seeing the situation slowly changing, Lin Qingxuan and the others were shocked. They didn't expect this result. At this moment, they finally understood why the true beginning Demon Hall refused to admit defeat. No wonder Hall Master Lei did not show any weakness. The true beginning Devil Palace is so strong. And this is because Mo Qingyun and Enchun didn't attack. Otherwise, the situation would be even more different. What do we do now? If we continue fighting, I'm afraid we'll suffer a great loss. Witnessing the strength of the true absolute beginning Devil Hall, Lin Qingxuan and the rest panicked. After suppressing Ingwudi and the others, Lei Muwen said with a cold expression, "Ingwudi, you want to make us submit to you? Let the sacred leader do it herself." As Lei Muwen's words fell, her attacks immediately became much fiercer. Immediately, Ingwudi and the others found themselves in an even worse situation. Retreat. Seeing his men retreating in defeat, Wudi Ing did not dare to hesitate and immediately retreated with his men. When Ingwudi and the others retreated, Lei Muwen and the others did not pursue them. Instead, they led their disciples back into the sect. Now was not the time for the decisive battle. There was not much meaning in pursuing Ingwudi and the rest. Moreover, Lei Muwen and the rest were also worried that this was Ingwudi's trajectory. If they pursued, the sacred leader and the rest would have long laid an ambush, waiting for them to take the bait. Although their strength was not weak, facing a Heaven General Realm powerhouse was still not an easy thing. Let the injured disciples heal. The others increase their defenses. Lei Muwen returned to the true beginning Devil Hall. After she finished instructing some disciples, she walked toward the assembly hall. Seeing Lei Muwen's actions, everyone followed closely and arrived at the assembly hall together. However, the Thunderpool Ice Phoenix did not follow and returned directly to the Jadefall Frost Pool. Its main mission now was to condense the law threads and break through to the Heaven General Realm. Entering the assembly hall, everyone's expression was tense, waiting for Lei Muwen's instructions. Under everyone's gaze, Lei Muwen's face was tense. "I'm sure everyone knows that the sacred leader's cultivation has broken through. This is definitely not a good thing for us. The sacred leader did not come personally this time, but he will definitely come next time. Whether it's Qingyun refining the Nine-Bull Divine Sword or Enchun breaking through to the Heaven General Realm, they both need time. We must buy them time." Zhao Sun's and the others nodded at Lei Muwen's instructions. After explaining the current situation, Lei Muwen didn't stop talking. She continued, "Based on the current situation, it will take at most 3 days for the Dark Demon Race's Holy Lord to arrive. If Qingyun has not succeeded in 3 days, we must buy time for Qingyun and the others at all costs." When Lei Muwen said this, a strong look of determination appeared on her face. After hearing Lei Muwen's words, the others also looked determined, as if they were facing death with equanimity. In their opinion, if Mo Qingyun failed, they would not be able to live either. Seeing everyone's reaction, Lei Muwen nodded in satisfaction. This was the worst outcome. In Mo Qingyun's residence, With Yun Luo's help, Mo Qingyun's refining of the Nine-Bull Divine Sword became much easier. Yun Luo would make up for some of the omissions, avoiding many potential problems. Based on this trend, we will be able to finish refining in at most 3 days. Looking at the refining progress, Mo Qingyun smiled faintly and calculated the time in his heart. Following that, Mo Qingyun's face was filled with anticipation. As long as the Nine-Bull Divine Sword was refined, even if the Sacred Lord's cultivation had broken through, he would not have the slightest fear. Looking at Mo Qingyun's performance, Yun Luo smiled and said, "Young Palace Master, you don't have to be too worried. Even if the Sacred Lord has broken through, he has only just entered the Heaven General Realm. If it really doesn't work, I will use the sword Great Tao Origin to kill him. I don't believe he is stronger than the Dragon Claw Blazing Sun Leopard." Hearing Yun Luo's words, Mo Qingyun was first stunned, then he smiled in agreement. Yun Luo was right. If it really reached that stage, he would use the sword Great Tao Origin to kill him. Then, Mo Qingyun did not think too much and focused on refining the Nine-Bull Divine Sword. In the following period of time, everything in the true Absolute Beginning Demon Hall was very peaceful. Lin Qingxuan and the others did not invade again. However, it was this kind of peace that made everyone feel a little depressed. They were very clear that a storm was coming. 3 days passed very quickly. Just as Lei Muan guessed, Ingwudi and the others had indeed come. This time, the lineup of Ingwudi and the others was clearly much stronger than before. Sensing the arrival of Ingwudi and the others, Lei Muan and the others' expressions were tense as they went up to them. Chapter 3158. Facing off against Ingwudi and the rest, Lei Muan and the rest immediately tensed up. They could clearly sense how terrifying the aura of the person in front of Ingwudi and the rest was. Is this the sacred leader? His aura is indeed powerful. It's not something a great emperor can compare to. No matter how strong he is, we can't back down. We must stall for time for Qingyun. Looking at the sacred leader, Lei Muan and the rest tensed up. Determination filled their eyes. Standing above the true Alpha Demon Hall and looking down at Lei Muan and the rest, Ingwudi sneered. Lei Muan, at this point, do you still want to resist? Hearing Ingwudi's smug words, Lei Muan said proudly, the disciples of the true Alpha Demon Hall only fight to the death. No one begs for mercy and lives. After Lei Muan said that, Zhao Sun's and the rest raised their heads, looking like they were facing death calmly. Looking at Lei Muan and the rest's performance, Lin Qingxuan and the rest felt ashamed. When facing Ingwudi and the rest, the gap between them and Lei Muan and the rest was too big. If they had any pride back then, they wouldn't have ended up like this. Stubborn and overestimating yourself. Seeing Lei Muan's performance, the sacred leader snorted and pressed down on Lei Muan. Under the sacred leader's attack, the sky changed color instantly. The power of laws gathered wildly. Very soon, a 1-meter-long line of laws as thick as a thumb formed in front of the sacred leader. Once the line of laws was formed, it turned into a stream of light and blasted toward Lei Muan. Miss Lei, be careful. This is a line of laws. Back off quickly. Seeing the sacred leader's attack, Zhao Sun's was shocked and immediately reminded Lei Muan. When Zhao Sun's reminded her, he also moved and appeared in front of Lei Muan. Break! Shielding Lei Muan behind him, Zhao Sun's clenched his fist and punched forward. When Zhao Sun's made his move, nomological power gathered frantically around his body. Soon, a half-meter-long, faintly discernible ray of light as thick as a thumb formed in front of Zhao Sun's. The illusory light formed and collided with the Divine Lord's nomological thread. Interesting. The Sacred Master's expression changed slightly when he saw Zhao Sun's attack. Surprise flashed through his eyes. I never thought that there would be someone in the true Primordium Demon Hall who has cultivated to such a level. If he cultivated for another decade or so, he really might be able to break through the limits of Emperor. Hearing the sacred leader's words, Ingwudi and the others were shocked. The way they looked at Zhao Sun's changed greatly. Originally, they thought that the Thunder Lake Ice Phoenix and Undawn were the only ones who were about to break through to the Emperor realm. Who would have thought that Zhao Sun's had also reached such a level? Chi, the two nomological threads collided. The illusory nomological thread that Zhao Sun's blasted out was immediately blasted apart. Before long, the nomological thread that Zhao Sun's blasted out dissipated in midair. While the nomological thread that the sacred leader blasted out was not reduced in momentum, blasting towards Zhao Sun's. However, under the obstruction of Zhao Sun's nomological thread, the sacred leader's nomological thread also shrunk a little. It was just that this degree of shrinking was very limited and could be ignored. Pucci. The nomological thread's speed was extremely fast. Without waiting for Zhao Sun's to dodge, it pierced into his body. Being bombarded by the nomological thread, Zhao Sun's was immediately blasted flying. A hideous wound appeared on his chest. Looking closely, one would discover that there was a fist-sized hole in Zhao Sun's chest, directly piercing through his body. "Brother Zhao, how are you?" Seeing Zhao Sun's appearance, Xian Yang and the rest were greatly alarmed, all asking nervously. With Zhao Sun's powerful strength, he actually could not withstand one move from the sacred leader. Was the disparity between the two so great? Hearing Xian Yang's question, the expressions of Lei Muan and the rest also tensed up. The sacred leader's combat strength was not on the same level as theirs. It was not something that could be achieved with numbers. This person is really too strong. We can't block him at all. After witnessing the sacred leader's strength, the Luai's Ice Phoenix came to Lei Muan's side and said nervously. He originally thought that he and Zhao Sun's should be able to block the sacred leader for a while if they joined forces. But now it seemed that he was completely wrong. After sending Zhao Sun's flying, the sacred leader smiled faintly and shook his head. Although you have some foundation in condensing nomological laws, your nomological laws are not pure enough. Therefore, you can't fully unleash its power. It's a pity. The sacred leader did not know that the nomological laws that Zhao Sun's condensed were not completely from the star domain realm. Most of the nomological laws in his nomological thread were from the heaven realm. Therefore, the nomological law threads that he condensed were not pure enough and could not fully unleash its power. After lecturing Zhao Sun's, the sacred leader looked at Lei Muan and the rest and said, "Who else wants to fight? I don't mind giving you a few pointers." Lei Muan and the rest tensed up when they heard the sacred leader's words. They were all deeply worried. Seeing that Lei Muan and the rest did not reply, the sacred leader smiled faintly and said, "Since none of you are speaking, I won't waste any more time." As soon as the Holy Lord finished speaking, he raised his hand and reached out to grab Lei Muan. Seeing the sacred leader's action, the Luai's Ice Phoenix shrieked and flew in front of Lei Muan. When the Luai's Ice Phoenix made its move, a powerful nomological law power exploded from its body. It's even stronger and purer than his nomological laws. The sacred leader was shocked when he sensed the Luai's Ice Phoenix's nomological laws. The smile on his face deepened and he said, "All right, I'll play with you for a while more before going to capture Mo Qingyun's woman." Lei Muan's face tensed up when she saw the sacred leader's action. She thought to herself, "This can't go on. We'll be annihilated one by one sooner or later. I wonder how Qingyun is now." Boom! Just as Lei Muan was worrying, the Luai's Ice Phoenix was sent flying. The Luai's Ice Phoenix was sent flying. Its wings started to crumble and its back became a bloody mess. From the looks of it, it probably couldn't fight anymore. After sending the Luai's Ice Phoenix flying again, the sacred leader looked at Lei Muan and smiled. "I'd like to see who else can stop me." Clang! As soon as the sacred leader finished speaking, a dazzling light exploded from the true absolute beginning demon hall. When this ray of light burst out, it directly rushed into the clouds, erupting with a terrifying aura. The sacred leader and the rest were shocked when they saw this. They looked at the true absolute beginning demon hall curiously. Could a treasure have been unearthed from the true absolute beginning demon hall? Compared to the sacred leader and the rest's shock, Lei Muwen and the rest were pleasantly surprised. They knew what had happened. If nothing went wrong, Mo Qingyun should have succeeded in refining the divine sword of 9 bulls. Chapter 3159. Roar. The light shot into the sky and quickly turned into a demon shadow, letting out a deafening roar. As the demonic shadow roared at the sky, rays of light with astonishing auras began to condense around its body. These are nomological law threads. Seeing the nomological law threads around the demon shadow's body, Zhao Sun's and the others were shocked and excited. Judging from the situation before them, the divine 9-bull sword that Mo Qingyun had refined was terrifyingly powerful. Compared to Lei Muwen and the others who were pleasantly surprised, the dark demon race's troops all had solemn expressions. The current situation wasn't a good thing for them. The true absolute beginning Devil Palace had produced a powerful divine weapon. If they wanted to destroy the true absolute beginning Devil Palace, it would not be an easy task. Capture Lei Muwen first, then use her to force Mo Qingyun to hand over the divine sword. The sacred leader's heart skipped a beat. His figure flashed, and he charged toward Lei Muwen. Seeing the sacred leader attack Lei Muwen again, Xian Yang and the others were shocked. They immediately surrounded Lei Muwen. They knew very well that Lei Muwen couldn't be captured. Otherwise, Mo Qingyun would be restrained when fighting the sacred leader. Miss Lei, retreat. Hall Master, go find Mr. Mo. We'll stop him. They reminded Lei Muwen when the others blocked the attack for Lei Muwen. Hearing their words, Lei Muwen gritted her teeth and retreated into the true Alpha Demon Hall. Seeing that Lei Muwen was about to escape, the sacred leader's face darkened. He shouted angrily, "You want to stop me? All of you die!" The sacred leader shouted angrily. He raised his hand and gathered a terrifying nomological law power. Soon, a huge palm blasted out from the sacred leader's hand and crushed down on Xian Yang and the others. Facing the sacred leader's attack, Xian Yang and the others didn't retreat at all. They were fearless. Boom! The huge palm landed with a loud explosion and set off a terrifying energy storm. When the energy storm was set off, Xian Yang and the others were sent flying, crashing toward the ground. Boom! Boom! Xian Yang and the others smashed into the ground, creating huge craters as deafening booms rang out. Then, a cloud of dust rose from the ground and swallowed them up. The sacred leader didn't stop after sending Xian Yang and the others flying. He continued to attack toward Lei Muwen. Lei Muwen was also very fast. Before the sacred leader could catch up to her, she had returned to the true Alpha Demon Hall. You can't escape. Seeing that Lei Muwen had escaped, the sacred master roared in anger and slammed his palm towards the sect-protecting Grand Formation. Under the sacred leader's palm strike, the sect-protecting Grand Array immediately shook as if it was unable to withstand the force of the palm strike. Boom! The sect-protecting formation trembled for a moment before collapsing, revealing the true absolute beginning Devil Palace. When the sacred master saw Lei Muwen after destroying the sect-protecting formation with a single palm strike, he chased after her with a cold smile on his face. The sacred leader was extremely fast. Lei Muwen couldn't compare to him at all. Soon, the distance between Lei Muwen and the sacred leader was shortened. Don't put up any unnecessary resistance. You can't escape from me. As soon as the sacred leader finished speaking, he grabbed forward with his palm and blasted out a huge palm shadow. Then, the palm shadow landed on Lei Muwen as though he wanted to capture her personally. Just as Lei Muwen was about to be captured by the huge palm, a sword light slashed across the sky. Under the bombardment of the sword light, the giant palm was instantly split apart and dispersed in midair. Seeing this scene, the sacred leader's expression changed. He looked at the source of the sword light with shock. While the sacred leader was in a daze, a figure flashed by and brought Lei Muan to the side. "Qin Yun, you've finished refining the divine sword?" Lei Muan was pleasantly surprised after being brought to the side by Emo Qingyun. She immediately asked Emo Qingyun. Emo Qingyun nodded at Lei Muan's question. "Why are you so silly? Why didn't you ask me for help? What would I do if something happened to you?" Lei Muan's face lit up at Emo Qingyun's words of concern. She smiled brightly. "I was worried that I would disturb you and affect your refining of the divine weapon." "You wouldn't." Emo Qingyun shook his head. "I can refine the divine weapon myself. It'll be easier for me if Yunluo helps me. If I knew you were in danger, I would have let Yunluo out long ago. Although the sacred leader is powerful, I can easily kill him if I use my trump card. It's my fault. I forgot to tell you about this." Lei Muan smiled sweetly at Emo Qingyun's words. She didn't seem to care at all. "Let's not talk about this now. Since the divine sword has been successfully refined, everything else is no longer a problem." Emo Qingyun nodded. He turned to look at the sacred leader. His eyes were cold. Under Emo Qingyun's gaze, the sacred leader's face turned cold. She looked at the divine sword of 9 bulls and said, "I never thought that you would have such a divine weapon. However, with your cultivation, I'm afraid you can't unleash its full power. Why don't you give it to me?" Emo Qingyun chuckled at the sacred leader's words. He curled his lips in disdain and said, "You want what I have? Do you have the ability?" "I was just thinking about whose blood I should use as a sacrifice for the divine sword of 9 bulls. You came at the right time. Using the blood of a Heaven General Realm expert as a sacrifice for the sword should be a good idea." Emo Qingyun's figure flashed as he charged towards the sacred master. When Emo Qingyun charged at the sacred leader, he also instructed Yunluo, protect Mu Wan and the others. If anyone dares to attack, use your trump card to kill them. Yunluo nodded at Emo Qingyun's instructions. Now that Emo Qingyun had the 100 battle sky splitting armor, he was no longer afraid of the dragon claw scorching sun leopard. Her trump card was no longer useful. Yunluo did not hesitate and immediately went to Lei Muan's side after hearing Emo Qingyun's instructions. Then, she went with Lei Muan to check on Xianyang and the others. While Yunluo were rescuing Xianyang and the others, Emo Qingyun was fighting with the sacred leader. He was not at a disadvantage. Ingwudi and the others were shocked when they saw Emo Qingyun's performance. Their eyes widened. How is this possible? Emo Qingyun can actually fight the sacred leader head-on. This kid is too monstrous. He has actually grown to this extent. Although Emo Qingyun is strong, the main reason why he can fight the sacred leader is because of his sword. His sword seems to be the divine sword of 9 bulls. It wasn't that powerful before. He hasn't appeared for so long. Could it be that he has been refining the divine sword of 9 bulls all this time? Lin Qingxuan and the others were even more shocked after they spoke a few words. If they guessed correctly, Emo Qingyun's ability was too terrifying. The power displayed by the divine sword of 9 bulls had obviously surpassed the level of an emperor weapon. It had reached a higher level. If Emo Qingyun could refine such a divine weapon, how terrifying was his refining ability? Chapter 3160. Roar. With a wave of the 9-bull divine sword, the huge demon shadow roared and charged at the sacred leader. When the demon shadow attacked, a terrifying power of laws exploded from its body. A faint smile appeared at the corner of Emo Qingyun's lips as he watched the demon shadow lunge out. Although the improvement of the divine sword of 9 bulls is somewhat different from what I expected, being able to summon an artifact spirit comparable to a heaven general is still a pretty good result. Originally, Mo Qingyun thought that the Nine-Bull Divine Sword would be able to break through the power of laws after being tempered again. He did not expect that the Nine-Bull Divine Sword would be able to summon an artifact spirit to fight. Previously, he had searched for the heavenly general concept origin to turn it into an artifact spirit so that he could summon it to help him in battle. It's just an artifact spirit. No matter how strong it is, it won't change the result. The Sacred Master snorted as he watched the demonic shadow charge towards him. Disdain filled his eyes as he said, "Once I kill you, I won't have to worry about this weapon spirit anymore. Then, the sword in your hand will belong to me." The sacred leader roared angrily and threw out a palm strike. His palm energy gathered rapidly. Soon, a palm shadow wrapped in the power of laws flew toward the demon shadow. In the face of the sacred leader's attack, Yao Ying didn't retreat at all. Instead, he threw a punch at Yao Ying. Boom! The demon shadow's fist hit the palm shadow, and there was a loud explosion, creating a terrifying energy storm. When the energy storm formed, it shattered the space and a huge crack appeared. Seeing the crack in space, Mo Qingyun and the sacred leader quickly retreated to avoid being swallowed by the crack. However, as the sacred leader retreated, he approached Mo Qingyun. Mo Qingyun did not care about the sacred leader's approach, and a playful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. The sacred leader wanted to attack him, but he was afraid that he would be disappointed. The sacred leader did not know what Mo Qingyun was thinking. When he arrived in front of Mo Qingyun, he sneered proudly and said, "Humph! A junior who has just become a great emperor wants to fight with me? You're overestimating yourself." As soon as the Holy Master finished speaking, he sent out a palm strike towards Mo Qingyun. Soon, a giant palm with an imposing aura came crashing down on Mo Qingyun. Facing the Sacred Master's attack, Mo Qingyun didn't retreat at all. Instead, he revealed a faint smile and took out his 100 Battle Heaven splitting armor. As the 100 Battle Heaven splitting armor was summoned, an even stronger aura erupted from his body. Then, Mo Qingyun was enveloped by the 100 Battle Heaven splitting armor and protected him. Boom! When the huge palm landed on the 100 Battle Heaven splitting armor, it immediately created a loud sound and a powerful energy storm. When this energy storm was formed, a sharp light exploded from the 100 Battle Heaven splitting armor. The speed of this beam of light was extremely fast. Before the sacred leader could react, it had already blasted onto his body. Puff! The sacred leader immediately spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face became extremely pale. Seeing that the Holy Lord was injured, Ingwudi and the others were shocked, their eyes wide open. Holy Lord is injured! How is this possible? How could Mo Qingyun injure him? I must have seen wrongly. Mo Qingyun has actually grown to such an extent. This is unbelievable. Lin Qingxuan and the others were also shocked. Seeing that Mo Qingyun had sent the sacred leader flying, Lei Muan's pretty face lit up. She said in shock, "Yun Luo, did I see wrongly? Qing Yun sent the sacred leader flying and severely injured him?" Hearing Lei Muan's words, Yun Luo smiled faintly and nodded. She said, "You didn't see wrongly. The sacred leader attacked the young palace master and was hit by the young palace master's 100 Battle Heaven splitting armor. The young palace master's 100 Battle Heaven splitting armor is a divine armor of the divine realm. How could someone who has just entered the heavenly general realm hurt the young palace master?" After hearing Yun Luo's words, Lei Muan and the others had a look of understanding on their faces. At the same time, the worry in his heart lessened. Under everyone's shocked gazes, the sacred leader stabilized his body and looked at Mo Qingyun in shock. He said, "What a powerful divine armor! Not only did it block my full force attack, but it also reflected a portion of the attack back to me. Kid, you are bringing me more and more surprises. I didn't expect that you would prepare such a big gift for me the moment I came out of seclusion. I want all the divine weapons and divine armors you have. Let me show them to you, said Yifutian. After the sacred leader finished speaking, he charged towards Emo Qingyun again. He didn't panic at all because he was injured. On the contrary, the sacred leader's expression was filled with excitement and greed. Looking at his expression, it was as if Emo Qingyun's divine nine-bull sword and 100 battle heaven splitting armor had already become his possessions. I'm just afraid that the surprise will turn into shock. Your heart won't be able to accept it. Looking at the sacred leader who was charging towards him, Emo Qingyun's lips curled up. There wasn't the slightest trace of fear on his face. After Emo Qingyun finished speaking, his figure flashed and he charged towards the sacred leader. When Emo Qingyun charged towards the sacred leader, he waved the divine nine-bull sword again and summoned the artifact spirit to fight with the sacred leader. With the 100 battle heaven splitting armor's defense, Emo Qingyun wasn't afraid of being injured at all. Every time he attacked, he would exchange his life for the sacred leader's. Emo Qingyun wasn't afraid of being injured, but the sacred leader wasn't. Under Emo Qingyun's crazy attacks, the sacred leader was in an extremely sorry state. His expression was tense as he dodged. However, under the entanglement of the ancient demon artifact spirit, it wasn't easy for him to dodge. Shortly after, everyone saw that the sacred master had fallen into a state of being suppressed by Emo Qingyun's overbearing attack. Damn kid, you actually have such a powerful divine weapon and divine armor. Under Emo Qingyun's attacks, the sacred leader was forced into a passive state. His face was as black as ink. Now, when he looked at the divine nine-bull sword and 100 battle heaven splitting armor, he no longer felt surprised. These two divine weapons were too powerful. With Emo Qingyun in his hands, the sacred leader couldn't hurt Emo Qingyun at all. Because of the two divine weapons, the sacred leader, an expert who had surpassed the great emperor realm, was suppressed by a junior who had just entered the great emperor realm. This was a great humiliation to the sacred leader. What made his head hurt even more was that Emo Qingyun would take his attacks head-on every time, causing him to suffer a certain amount of backlash damage. After accumulating over and over again, the sacred leader's injuries became more and more serious, causing his fighting strength to drop. This can't go on. I have to think of a way. Sensing his own situation, the sacred leader's expression became tense. A sense of anxiety rose in his heart. Seeing the sacred leader's reaction, the smile on Emo Qingyun's face became wider. He said, "Do you still think that I brought you a surprise?" Hearing Emo Qingyun's question, the sacred leader's face darkened. He was so angry that he gritted his teeth and said, "Kid, don't be too arrogant. You must have exhausted a lot of your energy by using the divine weapon and divine armor to fight. I don't believe that you can last forever. When you've exhausted your energy, it'll be the time for me to kill you." After the sacred leader finished speaking, he didn't attack fiercely anymore. Instead, he tangled with Emo Qingyun. He seemed to want to exhaust Emo Qingyun. When Emo Qingyun's energy was exhausted, he would capture Emo Qingyun in one fell swoop. Chapter 3161. I'm afraid you'll be disappointed again once I've used up all my power. Emo Qingyun smiled faintly when he heard the sacred leader's words. He didn't explain too much. He really wanted to see how the sacred leader would react when he was still full of energy even after the sacred leader had used up all his power. The sacred master snorted in response to Emo Qingyun's words. He didn't pay any attention to Emo Qingyun. Emo Qingyun didn't waste any more words with the sacred leader since he didn't say anything. His attacks became even more ferocious. The sacred leader's situation worsened as he faced Emo Qingyun's aggressive attacks. He fell into a perilous situation. How is this possible? The sacred leader has been suppressed the entire time. Emo Qingyun is far too strange. Is this his true strength? This guy hid it so well. He didn't show it at all. We were all wrong. We shouldn't have doubted Mo Qingyun. Lin Qingxuan and the others were filled with regret when they saw Mo Qingyun's actions. They felt intense regret. If they had been like Zhou Jiying and discovered that something was wrong with Ying Wudi and went to discuss it with Mo Qingyun, they wouldn't have ended up like this. Unfortunately, there was no point in regretting. It was all too late. Looks like the situation has stabilized. The danger of the true demon hall has been resolved. Seeing that Mo Qingyun was suppressing the Holy Lord, Lei Muwen's beautiful face relaxed, and her hanging heart finally relaxed. Yun Luo's face darkened slightly when she heard Lei Muwen's words. She showed some displeasure and said, "If it weren't for the young palace master stopping me, I could have used the origin of the way of the sword and killed the sacred leader instantly. We wouldn't have had to go through so much trouble." Zhao Sunce and the others were speechless when they heard that. They had no idea what to say. As it turned out, Miss Yun Luo was the truly terrifying existence. Lei Muwen smiled faintly when she heard Yun Luo's words. Qingyun's cultivation has just broken through recently. He needs a sparring partner. The sacred leader is more suitable. It's good to let him spar with you. That's true. Yun Luo nodded in agreement with Lei Muwen's opinion. Rather than killing the sacred leader in one strike, it would be better to let him fight with Mo Qingyun and let Mo Qingyun familiarize himself with his combat strength. As Mo Qingyun fought with the sacred master, he became more and more familiar with controlling his own strength. Not only that, but Mo Qingyun had also used his nomological laws bit by bit during his fight with the sacred master. Originally, Mo Qingyun was already suppressing the Holy Master. Now that he had activated the power of the laws and displayed an even stronger strength, he quickly suppressed the Holy Master. Law threads. When this brat fought with me, he actually tried to condense law threads. Seeing Mo Qingyun's performance, the sacred leader was scared out of his wits, and a terrified expression appeared on his face. At this moment, he was no longer as calm as before. All that was left was endless panic. If this continued, he would probably be slaughtered by Mo Qingyun before Mo Qingyun exhausted his strength. I can't let this drag on any longer. I have to think of a way to change the situation. The more the sacred leader thought about it, the more anxious he became. He glanced at Ying Wudi and the others and immediately urged them, "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and deal with Lei Muwen and the others. Take advantage of the fact that they are injured and capture Lei Muwen for me." Ying Wudi and the others trembled when they heard the sacred leader's urging words. They felt a strong sense of unease. They could tell that the sacred leader was panicking. It seemed like the situation wasn't quite right. "Are you afraid?" Seeing the sacred leader's reaction, Mo Qingyun's lips curled into a faint smile. The sacred leader wanted Ying Wudi and the others to capture Lei Muwen and the others, but his idea was probably going to fall through. With Yun Luo there, how could she let them have their way? Humph! The sacred leader snorted coldly when he heard Mo Qingyun's words. Other than Lei Muwen and that girl, the others are all defeated. How can they withstand the attacks of Ying Wudi and the others? Understanding the sacred leader's thoughts, Mo Qingyun also argued with him. The answer was soon revealed. If Yun Luo didn't have a trump card, Lei Muwen and the others would indeed be in trouble when faced with the attacks of Ying Wudi and the others. Unfortunately, not only did Yun Luo have a trump card, but it was also a very terrifying one. Boom! When Ying Wudi and the others attacked, a shocking aura suddenly erupted from the true Primordium Demon Hall. Everyone was shocked when they sensed the aura. They turned to look at the source of the aura. Not good. Someone in the true Primordium Demon Hall has broken through the limits of a great emperor. The sacred leader had just broken through the limits of a great emperor, so he felt a strong sense of familiarity with this aura. Therefore, when he sensed the aura, he knew what was going on. The panic in the sacred leader's heart became even stronger when he learned of the situation. Emo Qingyun curled his lips slightly when he saw the sacred leader's expression change. He smiled and said, "Looks like you're very unlucky. And Chen's cultivation has broken through. Ingwudi and the others won't have a chance to attack Mu Wan and the others." The sacred leader's expression changed when he heard Emo Qingyun's words. He was so angry that his veins popped out. He had miscalculated this time. He had seriously underestimated the strength of the true Primordium Demon Hall. What a powerful aura! It's even stronger than the sacred leaders. Unchurn has broken through. He's also broken through the limits of a great emperor. We're in big trouble. Lin Qingxuan and the others trembled when they sensed Chen's aura. Their faces instantly paled. They hadn't expected Enchern to break through at this time. Emo Qingyun alone was already too much for the sacred leader to handle. If Enchern joined in, the consequences would be obvious. Ingwudi clenched his teeth in anger when he saw Enchern approaching quickly. He said, "Why is it like this? Why didn't he break through earlier or later? Why did he break through now?" In his opinion, if Enchern had broken through earlier, they wouldn't have come to the true Primordium Demon Hall. If Enchern had broken through later, it would have been too late for him to come by the time they captured Lei Muan. "Enchern, you've broken through. Enchern has broken through the limits of a great emperor. The dark demons are finished." This is so satisfying. Good news comes one after another. Victory is in our hands. Zhao Sun's and the others were overjoyed when they saw Enchern. They were all excited. Enchern didn't respond to Zhao Sun's and the others' surprise. He pointed at Lei Muan and said, "Mistress, retreat to the side and recover. I'll take care of these people." "Okay." Lei Muan nodded and retreated with Zhao Sun's and the others. As soon as Enchern finished speaking, he moved and charged toward Ingwudi and the others. When Enchern moved, a terrifying aura exploded from his body. Then, Enchern threw out a palm. It formed a black door of light and enveloped Ingwudi and the others. Ingwudi and the others paled when they saw Enchern's attack. They didn't dare to fight him head-on. Then, they hurriedly retreated to avoid Enchern's attack. Unfortunately, the speed of the dark door was too fast. Before they could escape far, they were already trapped inside. Chapter 3162. Oh no, Ingwudi and the others are trapped. The situation is not good. The sacred leader's body trembled when he saw that Ingwudi and the others were trapped. Panic flashed through his eyes. If Ingwudi and the others were killed, Enchern would definitely come to Emo Qingyun's aid. It would be difficult to escape then. The situation has changed. We have to leave immediately. The sacred leader didn't dare delay any longer after understanding his situation. He immediately turned around and fled for his life. Emo Qingyun's expression turned cold when he saw that the sacred leader wanted to escape. "I originally wanted to play with you a little longer to get used to my combat strength. Since you are not willing to continue fighting, I can only send you on your way." As soon as Emo Qingyun said that, the aura he exuded immediately rose by a level. At the same time, a 100-meter-long pillar of light condensed in front of Emo Qingyun. This is a nomological law thread. The sacred leader trembled when he saw the pillar of light in front of Emo Qingyun. His eyes were filled with fear. They were both nomological law threads. Why was Emo Qingyun so thick? Also, could the pillar of light in front of Emo Qingyun still be considered a nomological law thread? More importantly, Emo Qingyun had just become a great emperor. How could he condense nomological law threads with such a cultivation base? No. This is impossible. This can't be real. The sacred leader was shocked when he saw Emo Qingyun's nomological law threads. He couldn't accept this fact. Emo Qingyun snorted coldly in response to the sacred leader's shock. "Nothing is impossible. The reason you think it's impossible is because your knowledge is shallow. Having a high cultivation base doesn't mean that your combat strength is strong. The reason you think you are invincible is because you are a frog in a well. The sacred leader's face twitched when he heard Emo Qingyun's words. He felt extremely sullen. How could he have known that a heretic like Emo Qingyun had appeared? If Emo Qingyun hadn't appeared, who would have been able to contend with him? After mocking the sacred master a few times, Emo Qingyun grabbed him with his palm, controlling the nomological threads to cover him. With a wave of Emo Qingyun's hand, the law thread quickly split into several smaller law threads. His law threads can actually divide. Seeing Emo Qingyun's performance, the sacred leader was shocked again, and his face became even paler. It was already extremely difficult for him to condense law threads. Who would have thought that Emo Qingyun would actually be able to divide people? This was another step further than him. Who is this kid? How can he be so monstrous? At this moment, the sacred leader's heart was filled with confusion. He began to doubt his own cultivation. He felt that he must have made a mistake somewhere. Otherwise, how could he say that there was such a gap between him and Emo Qingyun? Under the sacred leader's shocked gaze, the nomological threads quickly split up and formed a large net that covered him. Facing the nomological threads, the sacred leader's escape route was immediately blocked, and Emo Qingyun caught up to him. As Emo Qingyun chased after the sacred leader, a two-winged sacred power Pegasus quickly condensed under his feet. Emo Qingyun rode the sacred power Pegasus, and his movement speed instantly increased by a level. Emo Qingyun's figure flashed a few times, and he arrived in front of the sacred leader. Your speed is far inferior to mine. If you want to escape from me, I advise you to stop dreaming. Fight me to your heart's content. Hearing Emo Qingyun's words, the sacred leader's face was as black as ink, and the panic in his eyes intensified. The law threads were not as condensed as Emo Qingyun's, and their speed was not as fast as Emo Qingyun's. He was really at his wits' end. What made him even more distressed was that without a matching combat power, what was the use of having a high cultivation level? When Emo Qingyun intercepted the sacred lord, a series of miserable shrieks rang out from nearby. Hearing the screams, the sacred leader's body trembled, and he turned to look at the black light door. He saw that Ngwudi and the others, who were trapped, were all in pain, and their bodies were shriveling little by little. Looking at them, it seemed that some kind of overbearing force had forcefully sucked out their saint power and blood. No, I don't want to die. Save me, sacred leader. Emo. Young Master Emo, we were wrong, please spare us this once. We were wrong. We were all wrong. That's good. This way we can be free. Under the sacred leader's observation, screams came one after another from the black light door. Before long, the people enveloped by the black light door had all lost their ability to fight. After crippling Ngwudi and the others, Chen's figure flashed, and he flew toward the sacred leader. Seeing Chen approach, the sacred leader's face turned even uglier, and the panic in his eyes intensified. The situation that he was most worried about had finally happened. Chen, don't attack first. Let me spar with you. Seeing Chen approaching, Emo Qingyun instructed him before launching an attack on the Holy Lord. The sacred leader was not strong, and he was a difficult sparring partner. It would be a pity to kill him immediately. Hearing Emo Qingyun's words, the sacred leader was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood. His eyes were fierce, and he gritted his teeth. Emo Qingyun had gone too far. He was really treating the sacred leader as a sparring partner. Ignoring the sacred leader's anger, Emo Qingyun charged toward him after instructing Chen. Emo Qingyun's figure moved, and a surge of violent lightning energy exploded from his body. There was also a faint light surrounding these lightning bolts, which made the power of the lightning bolts even stronger. These light rays were naturally the precept threads. At this moment, Emo Qingyun did not use the Nine-Bull Divine Sword when he attacked. He only wanted to use his own battle strength to fight the sacred leader. Only then could he gain more. Of course, he still activated the 100 battle sky-splitting armor to ensure Mo Qingyun's safety. No matter what, the sacred leader was a Heaven General Realm elite. It would be fatal to be careless when fighting with him. Kid, you've gone too far. It won't do you any good if you force me into a corner. Facing Mo Qingyun's powerful attack, the sacred leader was so angry that he gritted his teeth. He was extremely aggrieved. He did not expect that he would still be bullied like this after breaking through to the peak Emperor realm. So what if I've gone too far? Mo Qingyun did not care about the sacred leader's anger at all. He asked coldly, even if I've gone too far, at least I've done it openly. I'm not like you scoundrels who only know how to play tricks behind my back. Of course, if you hadn't played tricks, I might not have cared about you and left you out. It's good that you've taken the initiative to jump out. You can completely resolve the enmity between me and the dark demon race. The sacred leader's expression changed slightly when he heard Mo Qingyun's words. He said in a slightly submissive tone, Mo Qingyun, everything that happened before was done by the plant bloodline. Our bloodline has no enmity with you. Can you give me a chance to make up for it? After fighting with Mo Qingyun for so long, the sacred leader realized that it was impossible for him to escape. His only chance of survival was to beg Mo Qingyun for mercy and beg Mo Qingyun to give him a chance to make up for it. Chapter 3163. Would you have spared us if we weren't as strong as you? Mo Qingyun sneered when he heard the sacred master's words. He shot him a disdainful look and said, When the dark demon race killed Han Yen, I swore that I would exterminate the dark demon race. I don't care which branch of the dark demon race you are from. As long as you are a member of the dark demon race, I won't spare you. Mo Qingyun's attacks became even fiercer after he said that. The sacred master lost all hope of begging for mercy when he heard Mo Qingyun's words. Am I really going to die here today? No, I definitely won't die here. The sacred master panicked when he saw that there was no hope of saving his life. His state of mind had completely collapsed. Mo Qingyun's expression turned cold as he looked at the sacred lord, whose mentality had collapsed. If you really want to blame someone, you should blame Ingwudi. If he hadn't framed me, I wouldn't have noticed you. It was Ingwudi who exposed you. I suddenly discovered that the dark demon race still had your branch. The sacred master's face darkened when he heard Mo Qingyun's words. He was furious. That useless fellow. Not only did he kill the Blood Kaiser, but he also harmed our branch. The sacred master suddenly realized that the fall of the dark demon race was directly related to Ingwudi. I've said so much to you. It's time to send you on your way. Mo Qingyun didn't waste any more words with the sacred master. Instead, he attacked even more fiercely. A terrifying bloodline power erupted from Mo Qingyun's body as he attacked. As Mo Qingyun activated his bloodline power, the sacred master was shocked to discover that his bloodline power was strongly suppressed. What a powerful bloodline power! What exactly is this fellow's bloodline? Sensing that his bloodline was being suppressed by a bloodline power, the sacred lord's face was filled with shock. His bloodline was a fusion of 100,000 different bloodlines, yet he still couldn't compare to Mo Qingyun. From this, one could see just how powerful Mo Qingyun's bloodline was. This discovery really shocked him quite a bit. Sky-shattering Tyrannosaurus fist. After activating the purple crystal thunder dragon bloodline, Mo Qingyun's figure flashed and he threw a punch at the sacred master. His fist, which was wrapped in the threads of law, left behind a purple afterimage as it blasted towards the sacred lord's chest. Holy blood shadow palm. Facing Mo Qingyun's fist, sacred leader did not wait for death. He used all his strength to block it. As the sacred master struck out with his palm, a surge of bloodline power erupted from his body. Then, a dazzling blood-red light exploded from the sacred leader's palm and collided with Mo Qingyun's fist. Bang! Gotcha! When Emo Qingyun's fist collided with the Saint Lord's palm, there was a series of explosions and a shocking wave of saint power. When these sounds were heard, the sacred master's palm was bent into an irregular shape. After breaking the sacred master's finger with one punch, Emo Qingyun's fist did not stop and he continued to attack the sacred master. Bang! Soon, Emo Qingyun's fist hit the sacred master and sent him flying. After being hit by Emo Qingyun's fist, the sacred master immediately spat out blood and his face turned pale. The sacred master flew back for 10,000 meters before he could stabilize his body. His face was as pale as a sheet of paper. This guy has the protection of the divine armor. I can't hurt him at all. I'll only be at a disadvantage if I fight him head-on. The sacred master stabilized his body. His expression was uncertain as he made a final struggle. While the sacred master was thinking, he glanced at Lei Muwen and had a plan. He thought to himself, if I want to leave this place alive, I have to start with Lei Muwen. Only by capturing Lei Muwen can Emo Qingyun not dare to attack me again. At this moment, while the sacred master was thinking, Emo Qingyun chased after him again. Emo Qingyun, it's not that easy for you to kill me. In order to make Emo Qingyun let down his guard, the sacred master shouted angrily and took the initiative to attack Emo Qingyun. Looking at the sacred master's current behavior, if one did not know what he was thinking, one would think that he was angered by Emo Qingyun. Seeing that the sacred master was no longer running away and wanted to fight with him head-on, Emo Qingyun smiled in satisfaction and said, "That's right. If you fight with me head-on, you'll die with dignity." The sacred master's expression was serious, and he did not respond to Emo Qingyun's teasing. Bang! After exchanging a few dozen blows with the sacred master, Emo Qingyun threw out another punch. This time, it landed on the sacred master's body. The sacred master was immediately sent flying by Emo Qingyun's punch. He flew towards Lei Muwen and the others. And Chen's expression changed when he saw the sacred master flying towards them. He became worried and said, "Oh no, the sacred master is flying towards the mistress. He purposely let master send him flying. His goal is to capture the mistress when we're not paying attention." And Chen cried out in surprise. With a flash, he chased after the sacred leader. It won't be that easy to capture Mu Wan. Emo Qingyun guessed the sacred master's intentions when he saw the sacred master's actions. He also chased after him. The sacred master did not care about Emo Qingyun and in Chen's pursuit. He smiled coldly and said, "Emo Qingyun, it's useless even if you catch up to me. If you dare to attack me, these two beauties will be buried with me." As soon as the sacred leader finished speaking, he stretched out his palm and grabbed at Lei Muwen. At that moment Yun Luo, who was beside Lei Muwen, said coldly, "You're a heaven general, but you're no match for the young palace master, who's a heaven soldier. How dare you try to sneak an attack on us? Let's see how I'll deal with you." As Yun Li's words fell, she raised her hand and a small sword appeared in her hand. "Go." Yun Luo summoned the sword Great Tao Origin, then raised her hand and tossed it towards the sacred lord. The sword Great Path Origin exploded with a terrifying aura and enveloped the sacred master. What a terrifying aura! What treasure is this? The sacred master's face twitched when he sensed the sword Great Path Origin's aura. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead. He was on the verge of collapse. This harmless-looking girl actually had such a terrifying item. She was clearly bullying the poor. Compared to Emo Qingyun and the others, he was too poor. He did not have any decent treasures. While the sacred master was panicking, the sword Great Path Origin arrived in front of him and hit his head. No, the sacred master screamed when he was hit by the sword Great Path Origin. His head exploded. The sword Great Path Origin was too powerful. Even with the sacred master's strength, his primordial spirit could not escape. As the sacred master's primordial spirit exploded, his aura began to dissipate. He died under the sword Great Path Origin. Seeing such a scene, the surrounding people were stunned. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.